doesn't look like the focus is that right for Moscow 5, but they're avoiding all the damage that they need to. An ace coming out for them, a triple kill coming out for Genja, and it looks like they may be able to push on to the Nexus turrets in this one. They have a lot of tank behind their champions. Diamond and Gosu on the front. The first Nexus turret goes down 23-7, 31 minutes into the game. That's all Moscow 5 needed for game 1 as they take it from TPA.
A chance against me. I can calculate 19 trillion moves in advance. Not fair. Not fair.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Someone that's afraid to let go. You decide if you're ever gonna let me know. Suicide if you ever try to let go. I'm sad, I know, yeah. I'm sad, I know, yeah. Who am I? Someone that's afraid to let go. You decide if you're ever gonna let me know, yeah. Suicide if you ever try to let go. I'm sad.
you feeling about the show, man?
Okay.
Okay. We got this idea. We want you to write a song.
Okay.
But there's 10 teams in the league.
Yeah.
And want to make sure that we cover more than just G2 and Fnatic.
Okay.
Yeah? You think you can do that for me?
I can probably do that.
Okay. So we'll see you on set.
Okay. See you then.
And take Ender with you.
Fine.
One, two, three, four.
Greatest league in the world is doing fine, making lots of memes, having a great time. Incredible games, incredible moments. Watch LEC, you'll know that we're owning. Many intros, LEC updates, making cringy content. Drake and Dur are mates. Victory moments, ganks, falls, and feints. Flaming all chat, want to use in pain.
Fine.
New year, not every team is great. Some run it down, some are just dead weight.
Kilo.
Misfits through the whole year away. Benching the feeders to try and play leader. Who also turned out he was a feeder, running it down. Like, one good game, maybe? Yeah, one? No?
One,
Not?
two,
No?
three, four.
Greatest league in the world is doing fine, making lots of memes, having a great time. Now it's time for Fnatic and G2.
Hold up. We got some teams in the back.
Despite all the hype, OG and Summer still bombed. Maybe need a manager like expect his mom.
Mama.
Time for vitality, don't have a choice. Guess I can say their coach has a pretty nice voice.
Shurima.
Perfect Tara Gold came from the sky. Vander exclaims, how good am I?
Not good enough.
Splyce were the favorites, picked Rogue, thought they were fine. How could they forget Rogues kill you from behind?
Backdoor.
Greatest league in the world is doing fine, making lots of memes, having a great time. But it doesn't really matter because G play Fnatic. It's the best series that we've ever seen. Might have been a dream, just an EU dream. Reckless gave up on playing ADC. Now he just plays Karma, cause that champ is free.
GG.
Caps, craps, doesn't matter to you. Best mid in the world, second best on G2. It's the best series that we've ever seen. Might have been a dream, just an EU dream. It's the best series that we've ever seen. Might have been a dream, made the fans scream. So good, 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 so good. Woo!
Welcome back to Berlin, Germany for round 2 of the LEC regional qualifiers. Schalke and Splyce have spent the entire year fighting for a spot at Worlds, and tonight one of them will earn the honor of representing Europe on home soil. There is Upset, the focal point of Schalke 04 in yet another fight to make it to the World Championship. My name is Shax, and I'm joined here by Frosk and Yamato Cannon, or should I say The Voice, as we get into the second day of the regional qualifier. Give us one of the so goods.
So good.
So good. All right.
Put me on the spot, embarrass me again.
No, it wasn't embarrassing at all. I thought that was a tremendous performance. I would say the song was better than the series we saw yesterday. Not to flame anyone, but yesterday, of course, Splyce advanced to the next round of the regional qualifier after a slow series versus Origin. And it's always hard for us because we don't want to be too negative about the teams that we saw or we see playing in our league. But these are teams that are fighting to get to Worlds Frost, so it has to be better today.
So the good news is that it came down to, or it's going to come down to Splyce versus Schalke, which ultimately these teams have been consistent the entire year long. We've been talking about Splyce for a long time, Schalke right on their heels, and so it feels like we are kind of climaxing into this moment that everyone saw coming, but at the same time, yeah, yesterday was a bit uninspiring. It was not the highs that we expect to see of Splyce. Origin, of course, playing with the sub, so kind of playing from the back foot as the best of 5 started, but not the greatest look.
Yeah, for sure. I think Splyce, what you can say is coming into this one, I guess maybe the first stage was a warm-up. I think that's the best thing you can take away from it.
Well, we looked at previous regional qualifiers, and that is indeed the case. Usually that first round of the regional qualifier, everyone's really stressed. They haven't played in a while. Some of them have missed out on the playoffs. So we'll take that as the reason for the questionable plays yesterday. Today, though, it is all on the line. And now we don't want to see any more of that, Frost, because whoever wins between Schalke 04 and Splyce find themselves in Worlds.
And I think the good news is that when you look at Splyce, for one, you know that there's a ceiling beyond that. Xerxes in particular didn't have the greatest performance yesterday, and you know that he can perform better than that. You guys kept talking about it on the analyst test. So theoretically, heading into this best of 5, you know that there's that extra gear that Splyce should be able to find. And then on the other side, it's, okay, we saw Schalke most recently. I thought it was a bad stylistic matchup across from Fnatic. Splyce should actually give Schalke a lot of time to breathe, so we should also get to see them in top form.
For sure.
Hopefully so. Yamato, what can you say about Origin? I think, of course, we know that they couldn't play with Cold, which didn't do them any favors. But then you have to look back at the entire year and say you just didn't perform in summer overall.
Oh, it's crazy to think because in the first split that they played, they didn't set the high expectation for themselves. They managed to clinch a second position. They lost to G2, which is okay. There's no shame in that. Then in summer, all of a sudden, there was always this hope. All the pros were talking about it because we got to practice against them. We were always saying they're going to bounce back because in practice they are so good. They have these players individually that have the capacity to do great things, but it just never came through. People kept saying it, and up until the end, even on the analysis yesterday, I said, oh, OG is going to show up because they have this capacity to do it, but it just never, ever happened. And it's quite disappointing because everyone knows what they could potentially be.
Yeah, very disappointing for Origin. We'll see what they come up with next year. But while the LEC teams are battling for a spot at Worlds, our next superstars are well underway with EU Masters. So here's Medic for an update.
With the LEC split winding up, many of you might have been wondering how you'll feel your insatiable need for European League of Legends. Well, fret not. The European Masters is already underway with 20 of Europe's strongest teams taking to the Rift. There's plenty to be excited about. Now, if you've never watched the EU Masters before, here are the cliff notes. 13 teams qualify straight into the main stage by winning their respective European regional leagues. Those teams are then joined by 3 more who've qualified through the play-in stages, which has been happening this past week. And you might wonder why EU Masters is so important. Well, historically, it's been a springboard for European players to get their name out there and to move up into the LEC. Last split, 21 players in the LEC had previously played in the EU Masters, including Rogue's entire roster, Selfmade and Nemesis. With the playing stages wrapping up, I wanted to take a look at the 3 teams that qualified and highlight 3 key players, starting off with Special on XL. XL automatically qualified for the play-in stages after going undefeated in the round robin, and Special was a key component to their success. Having previously played in the LEC in spring, Special had a lot to prove coming into this year's EU Masters. His LeBlanc performance against Vitality B silenced a lot of his critics, ending the game 6-0-7, and he consistently caught the French team off guard. Now, next up is Berlin International Gaming from the Dark region. After starting off the group stage at 1-3, Big matched up against Vitality B in their knockout game. Coming in as the underdogs, Big mechanically outclassed Vitality, specifically Kazi, with an impeccable Lucian performance. His ability to dodge in and out of fights, waiting for his moment to dash forward, makes him a key player to look out for in the group stages. And finally, Rogue Esports Club continue to be giant killers as they took down Origin Barcelona in their second knockout match. Their 2-0 win was defined by strong team fights, a powerful mid-jungle duo, and in Game 2, former H2K mid laner Selfie found multiple assassinations on his LeBlanc, and a great Elder Dragon fight managed to secure them the win in the end. Now, if you want to catch these 3 teams and all the other teams in the European Masters, group stages take place from the 16th to the 19th of September. Make sure you tune in on twitch.tv/Riot Games at 6 p.m. CEST. Back to you, Shox.
Thank you very much, Medic. Always nice to see who the rookies will be that come out of Europe that we may see at Worlds 2020. But as Worlds 2019 in Europe gets closer, we also want to highlight some of our best moments from past World Championship over this regional qualifier. Now, today we are casting our minds back to 2016. The tournament was held in the US of A with stops in San Francisco, Chicago, New York, ending in Los Angeles' Staples Center for the final. SKT were the favorites, and spoiler alert, they would go on to win the whole thing. But for Europe, all eyes were set on G2 Esports, who had taken the EULCS by storm in 2016. Now, the third seed out of Europe was Splyce. They had a very difficult task and managed to get only a single win in a stacked group. But Kabi and crew did take down Uzi and RNG, and ever since then, Kabi has been fighting to get that new shot at the world stage. And then G2 Esports, all eyes of Europe on them, got seeded into a group with Rox Tigers, Albus Nox Luna, and Counter Logic Gaming. You would say, well, that's doable for them. They should get out of that group. But Perks and crew only got a single win, had a shameful exit from Worlds, and an international trauma was brewing. And that trauma would take years to overcome, but as we know, they would get back up. Now, luckily for all of Europe, H2K, with Odoamne, Jankos, Ryu, Forgiven, and Vander, stepped up and grabbed the #1 spot in a group with EDG, AHQ, and INTZ. Now, I won't deny there was a little luck of the draw, but hey, H2K beat their quarterfinal opponent Albus Nox Luna, avenging G2 and locking in their spot in Madison Square Garden. Now, in the semifinals, the future world champion Samsung made quick work of the European squad, but H2K can have fond memories of saving a Worlds that seemed pretty doomed for Europe overall. Today, Odoamne has a chance to get back to the biggest stage, and with Schalke 04, continue the tradition of Europe bringing a new team to Worlds every single year. When I was preparing this look back at Worlds, it wasn't the positive one, you know? It wasn't the 2015 one or the 2018 one, but nevertheless, I think it's an important one because sometimes success comes from an unexpected team.
And what's crazy is kind of casting your mind back, especially looking at that Splyce roster. How many players went on to have incredible legacies? I mean, you went with them, you had Wonder, you had Mickey on that roster. Kabe also gets another shot at trying to make his berth on an international stage. It's pretty crazy, all of the talent that was jammed onto that one lineup.
It was crazy because that year, I remember after Spring Split, we were in relegations.
Yep.
And a lot of people were telling me, you have to kick Wonder, you have to kick Kobe, you need to get new players, get this player. I was like, no, no, no. These guys, they haven't shown anything. And they've just continued to give to the league. And I think they're all incredible players.
Absolutely. What a vision. Now time to showcase rather what EU is all about as we turn up the fun to 100 with Champion Charades. If you haven't watched this segment before, it's Charades with champions. Frosk has never gotten to play this one.
I never get to play it. I'm so good at charades.
Going to whisper a champion in her ear, and we are going to try and guess it.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give you space. Oh, shoot. Whoa. Is this Vi? Yeah.
Ah, that's so easy.
First, I got intimidated because you were punching towards me, and
there we go.
It's basically my chroma.
Well, I was thinking about the Lee Sin with the boxing skin as well.
Yes. I would have pulled the leg up. Don't worry, I'm not an amateur here.
Fine. Very good job. All right, Yamato, I think you're up next.
All right.
Why do you think it's a secret agent? Xin Zhao? No,
Nate?
it's a gun.
Twitch? Poppy? No. Orn? No.
Okay, he's shooting
Graves?
something.
No. A suit?
A suit.
Lucian? No. This is his crossbow or something, isn't it? Hammers, crossbows. Wait.
No. What? Give me a different animation. Give me the ultimate.
Marks
this is it?
Pulling? Iloawi? No. Huh?
A scythe. Okay, you're in a suit.
Okay, so Lucian is in a suit.
It's not Lucian.
Look.
Is it a spear? Hammer.
Is it Debonair? Is it Jace?
Yes. Jace. I'm shooting my crossbow, I'm switching into hammer, and then you tell me, show me the ult. I'm like, what the hell?
Listen, just for everyone at home, you might say, oh, how didn't they get it? It's not as easy as it looks when you're up here and all the lights are on, and
you couldn't give me like the 1, 2, 3?
I was,
Look,
it looked like Zinza, you told me.
Yeah, because you like... Oh, you look like a street cleaner with your broom.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Garen.
Yes! Whoa.
Do I get points? Is there a point system?
Have to go once the other way. Great.
I like how you clasped both hands. You were like very secure.
I was like
before the spin. You could have just spun arms wide.
Demacia! Okay, Frost gets the last one. So it's wait.
Oh, no.
I have 1 point. You have 1 point. Okay. And you have 1 point. So tiebreak. Well,
this is hard.
No one gets it. She wins.
Why would they do this to me? Okay.
I'm happy I didn't have to do that. Crap.
Ergot.
Ergot. No? It's not Ergot. Crab block? Who's a crab?
Winston. No, that's a different game.
No. Elise? Who's a scorpion? No. Elise? Ah! Yay! I love how I didn't even say anything when it was right.
You're like a spider.
This is a spider?
Okay, I had to do... I know she's not a crab. I know it's a spider, but I had to get you guys on Monster Champion.
It's funny, he wanted to do the crab walk yesterday. Wow!
I was so confident.
I should have just done the can.
I'm just glad I didn't have to do that. That was great. No, great job. Champions Parade. I'm going to check the VODs later to see if people in the chat had it earlier than us. I think probably yes, but that was a lot of fun. And we also got some movement out there. So now we are ready to settle into...
Stretched.
We're stretched.
Warmed up.
More serious issue, and also what is the most important here today, and that is the qualification for Worlds between Schalke 04 and Splyce. And as we get a bit closer to the action, let's hear what Xerxes has to say before today's series.
Thank you very much, guys. I am joined by Duke backstage here. Now, Duke, we saw Splyce struggle near the end of the split and then have a pretty disappointing series against Rogue. What have you guys done in the time off you've had until now to prepare for these series?
Yeah, we had a slump at the last 3 weeks, I think, as of the loss against Fnatic, which really shattered us at the end of the split, and we were just the shadow of ourselves in playoffs. So, I mean, every team has some cycles like this, and it was...
Cool. Oh, that wasn't Cersei, but I think we're getting him now.
Approach the game a bit different.
Okay, hi. No, okay, well, yeah, we've got it. There we go. Xerxes, tell us what's up. I'm being trolled.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm joined by Xerxes, the jungler for Splyce. Now, I want to talk a little bit about yesterday's...
Oh, no? Okay, well, I'm just going to
Thank you very much, guys. I'm joined by Xerxes, the jungler for Splyce. Now, I want to talk a little bit about yesterday's performance. The games were a lot slower than we're used to seeing, and after coming off the back of Fnatic G2, I think people wondered about sort of the quality of League of Legends being played. How do you feel about your victory over Origin yesterday?
Well, it wasn't the victory that we were expecting, but at the end of the day, it was still a win. Obviously, we are not on the level of G2 and Fnatic, but we have to play what works best for us. And yeah, that's the style it worked for us, and can't do more about it.
Yeah, no, but if that's the style that you think works for you and that is working for you, then there's no reason for you to change it. Coming into this series today, how did you readjust knowing that you'd be playing up against Schalke?
I mean, we learned a lot draft-wise, and I think we were a bit nervous yesterday on stage, like especially the first few games, and that's why we were really slow. But we can consider yesterday's game as a warm-up, and today we should be ready to win against Schalke.
Well, you have to be warmed up for today because you've got a best of 5 to decide whether you go to Worlds or not. You've missed out on it in the past. A lot of your team have missed out on it in the past. What would it mean for you to represent Europe on the world stage?
It would mean everything. I mean, it's every single player goal to make it worse, and I had this goal since I started playing professionally, and I will keep going at it until I get there.
And just let's pretend that you win the series today. Let's imagine that happens, right? Because obviously we're talking before the series has even started. What would be your expectation? How far do you think you'd get at a World Championship?
I mean, it's kind of hard to tell, because like right now we are kind of playing really slow. But if we can manage to play, to fix a bit our early game, I feel like we can definitely make it that far. But I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Okay, because in the past, your early game has been a strength. You especially, your early jungle pathing was something we praised for a lot of the split. What has actually changed for Splyce that means that you're now struggling with it?
Thing is, like, the loss against Rogue affected us a bit, and it hit our confidence as well. So yeah, since then, like, we had a lot of time to practice, but the internet wasn't so great either. Like, so the practice was kind of up and down. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that today our early game should be more solid than it was yesterday.
Okay, well, I wish you the best of luck in your series today. We'll see if you can make it to Worlds for the first time ever. Thank you very much, Xerxes. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Medic. You really grilled them, but I think that's fair, seeing how today they will have to step it up if they want to qualify for Worlds. Now, in terms of this matchup in 2018, Schalke and Splyce both didn't make it to Worlds through that gauntlet, but today one of them will be able to jump over that final hurdle and find themselves in the World Championship. So let's also set the story for both teams. For Schalke, then, who won a shot at redemption. Last year, they were in the final Frost, and it looked like everything was primed for upset to finally get to Worlds, but they fell short.
And that's kind of the big jumping off point for me. It's seeing this guy on your screen actually get a berth on an international stage and show why he is one of the strongest ADCs in the league. When we have, you know, big names like, or heavy hitters like Reckless and Perks who are already attending, it would feel amazing whether it's Kabe or upset, but I would love to have a German player and a German team get to play in front of a German crowd in Berlin. That would just be insane.
I'm looking at the rest of the roster as well, the guys that are setting upset up. Trick has been to the World Championship many times.
Ignar.
Ignar as well, his Misfits run, where he defined the whole meta of the tournament, telling his mid laner to buy Ardent Sensor, I'm going to play Blitzcrank. And that was a heavy hitter. And I think in the right meta, these guys can be very deadly.
And I think that's something to really hone in on as we look at this best of five. Xerxes said it in his interview, confidence, and that's kind of the word that's been plaguing Splyce this entire time. They always talk about their confidence and how comfortable they're feeling on stage. But I think the same thing can be reflected back at Schalke. These are young rosters that don't have necessarily the same synergy in terms of longevity of playing together that some of our other big hitters like Fnatic and G2 have. And now you're looking at Odo, Trick, and Ignar versus Kabe, who is actually going to be that anchor and say, hey guys, we've played on some of the biggest stages in the world, we can get you to that point. Who's going to have the cool head to prevail today?
Absolutely right. And when I was looking across Twitter, I got a bit nervous yesterday. I saw Odoamna, I said upset tweeting, well, that was definitely series or whatever. Are we going to have not an easy time? But, you know, they kind of were implying what we also thought of the series, that it didn't look like both teams were really in form. I hope that they do approach this with the amount of seriousness that is needed, because you can get caught off guard in a do-or-die series like this. And Splyce, they had that series yesterday. And for them as an organization, we saw it there, we talked about it before, 2016 with Yamato Cannon at the helm was the last time this organization was there. It's a long time coming.
It's been a while. There's been many regional qualifiers for a lot of these guys. I'm looking at Vigichachi. I don't know how many regional qualifiers he's lost. He's always been so close.
All of them.
I think Kobe wants to come back as well and do more than just getting partnered in the groups, because that's what happened to us. You know, we had a tough group.
Yep.
I think they want it.
Yeah, they absolutely want it, but then they have to show it to us on the Rift, because today they're up versus a very different opponent, Frost. When we look at play styles, it's not all in the late game for Schalke. No, they will try and hit you in the mid game.
Yeah, and they're a team fighting team, which you kind of expect. If there's any expectations going into the series, it's that we're going to have a lot of explosive, big 5v5 action. I think that Schalke in particular are one of our best front-to-back team fighters in the LEC. I think when things break down, get a little bit messy, when it turns into more skirmishes, even if all 10 players are grouped, that's where Fnatic and the G2 start to shine. But if you get your big, meaty tank line set in front of you and you have a guy like Upset or you have a guy like Kabe, that's where these teams thrive. Stylistically, Schalke versus Fnatic, they move too fast. Rogue versus Splyce, Rogue moved too fast to Splyce. But for Splyce and Schalke, both of these teams do tend to be more about the setup, slow it down a little bit. So hopefully we'll get to see both these play styles really shine and what they like to do.
I think it's great that you bring up speed, because I think that kind of defined the level of a lot of our teams in the LEC. I think when teams are playing at a high pace with a high accuracy, that's what makes them good. When I compare Schalke and Splyce, I feel like Schalke is very similar in the sense that they want to set up upset for that victory. I feel like they can facilitate that much better because they add all these extra steps. They actually gank into bottom, the pressure through mid into bottom. They make sure upset has these extra turret platings. And then in the mid game, they set up these fights around the objectives. They're actually making things happen. And I think that's the biggest difference maker here against Splyce.
Yeah, I really like what you were talking about kind of when we were going through rehearsals. It feels like Schalke know their identity, that they'll play through Upset and Ignar more, whereas Splyce, it feels like they're kind of teetering between playing through Humanoid, playing through Kabe, and sometimes even going up into that top lane. It's not the same consistent punch, and while that can make Schalke telegraph, that also makes Schalke very consistent. You know that they're very refined and very practiced with their particular style.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yesterday, I don't think we saw the best Splyce. Maybe in Game 5, there were glimpses of it. Yamada, if you'd have to choose a perfect composition for them to play through in this best of 5, what would it be?
I'm thinking champions like the Kaiser, the Nautilus, the Kaiser we saw many, many times. I think Kiana is a champion that Humanoid did very well on in that Fnatic victory. But I'm sure it's going to be banned because this is a champion that both teams played today. But the main things that stand out here is that Vichchachi is playing the GP, a champion that is good to be on an island, leave him alone, have that gangplank ultimate to ult onto bottom. Gragas has options to gank into both sides with that Nautilus, and all of a sudden you can play for that Kaiser. You have an early game plan, you can leave GP alone, and that's what I want to see from Splyce today.
Yeah, as said, a lot of these things might be banned away, but that is the ideal scenario. Tell me about Schalke. What do they put up against that?
Well, the fun part is I want to see exactly the same from Schalke. Exactly the same. I think they have a lot more options, you know. I think it fits the exact same mold because Odoamne, leave him on an island. I think he has a lot more picks that suits his playstyle more in the shape of Rumble and Cannon, but I think it's all the same thing. Just put Trick on a tank that is good to gank into bottom lane, Ignar with some kind of setup, make sure that Upset is ahead, and all of a sudden you have a game on our hand. I want to see rockets and fireworks and explosions in the bot lane, because then it means we have a good game on our hands.
And I agree with Yamato, just the idea that the core responsibility of a lot of these players and the champions that they want to do overlap for both these teams, but I do want to put a magnifying glass on some of the key differences, in particular some of the pocket picks. You know, are we going to get Chachi's Poppy? Are we going to see Odo's Rumble? Is it going to be Upset's Caitlyn? Is it going to be Kabe's Vel'Koz? Like, I think that if this series goes the distance, that's when the differences between these teams, between these players, will be that tiny inch that get them over the line to Worlds.
Yeah, we are counting down to this best of 5. There are 2 things that I still want to talk about. One is Xerxes. We heard from him in the interview. Yamato, you had some harsh words for him, saying this is a guy that needs to step up in order for Splyce to succeed today.
I had very harsh words for him because I expect so much more from him. In the regular split, he was a menace. He was very deadly. He was the scariest player on Splyce because he was so creative in the way he played. Yesterday, we saw Xerxes that was on Elise. He was picking these early game champions to maybe transition Splyce into a late game, but I think he is much more than just that. I think he can do a lot more on the more creative picks. I'm just thinking that Xerxes didn't fulfill the kind of legacy that I have in mind yesterday.
And I think there's a lot of pressure on Xerxes to kind of be the one avenue of attack for Splyce in an early game. You keep listening to teams as they talk about Splyce, and they say that they don't really push when they're on offense, so they don't take as much as they could. And I think Xerxes, with some of those early game picks, was trying to shore that up. Whereas on the other side, again, the small, minute differences. We expect Schalke and Splyce to team fight, but I put emphasis that Schalke will attack you in lane, especially in that bot lane. They're much more bloodthirsty than I think Norskeren and Kabe are.
And speaking about that bot lane and in general, when we look at the stakes for this match, it is obvious, getting to Worlds, but it is much more intricate for so many of these players because they've tried so many times and they feel like they deserve it, but then they have to show it today. The bot lane comes up, but across the board, Frosk, many players deserve it today, but only 5 will get there.
And it sounds so cliche to say whoever wants it more on the day is going to get it, but I actually really do believe when you have rosters this young, it's one of those intangibles that you can't really see on the field, but you can definitely see it as the players are settling down and, you know, getting set up, as they're walking back into the break room. If you just keep your eyes on their reactions, when you have guys that have kind of this level of inexperience or kind of this green to this big of a stage, that's when you start to see some of those cracks of who is actually going to be clutch today, who's going to step up.
We'll see. A mini Yamato speech, 10 seconds.
Mini Yamato speech, I think, you know, there's a lot on the line. I think the guys on your screen are the ones that are going to decide it. So at the end of the day, there will only be one winner, one loser, and one will go home happy, one will go home very, very sad because there's a long off season.
I will say this. I think whether it's Kabe or upset, Europe can feel very proud of the 3 superstar ADCs that we will send to Worlds.
All right, fantastic. Let's see if they leave it all on the Rift. Play your hearts out, because Worlds is the biggest stage in League of Legends, and tonight some of these players will see their dreams finally come true. It is time for Schalke versus Splyce.
Longtime underdogs, Splyce failed to make a comeback to Worlds after their 2016 run. This year, Splyce have shown that they are not to be underestimated.
Dash back and being out, safety, fancy forward, comes in from Humanoid, they're trying to do the play, North Darren is a hero! That was a monster play!
They gave up the long-held second spot to Fnatic in 2 devastating losses at the end of the split.
Continues in his AD carry versus AD carry, and Kobe is feeling himself, but Reckless says, not today!
Which seemed to affect their performance even more going into playoffs.
Like he finds it's a beautiful engage, everyone goes in, Humanoid is left holding his head in his hands, he doesn't even get to participate, the Akali is useless, Woolite takes down Kami, Rogue have destroyed Splyce.
Let's not forget, though, that we have seen greatness within this team. We know what they are capable of. We need to see Splyce reset their mental after their short playoff run, and we want to see a return of the calculated beasts they were early in the split. In the past, Schalke have been built around one player, their AD carry superstar Upset.
Look at the base, look at the base! Oh, Pablo, you wanted a fiesta, and Schalke are here for a party!
This year we've seen Trick, Ignar, Odoamne, and Abadage all step up, and Schalke became a much stronger, well-rounded team.
Abadage goes in, Abadage goes down, but here comes Odo! He slices through them all, and Ignar's going to chase down Larson as well, like Warlock is already done. Larson tries to flash away, but it's a quadra kill for Odo!
The addition of Trick to this roster has opened up so many options for what used to be a relatively one-dimensional team, contesting the best of the best in the LEC with an often explosive early game and incredible team fight prowess.
He's going to heal up. Finn was on his way down as well. Just double dash across the wall, but Trick going in, and Odo there with a flash chase. It's easy enough for Schalke, first blood.
The last time we saw Schalke, they came up short, but to make it to Worlds, they will need to refocus on the task ahead of them. If they can rise above the rest, they will earn their spot at Worlds and a second shot at the team who took them down in Athens. Regional qualifiers have never been so exciting, and it all starts now.
Schalke versus Splyce, the last spot at Worlds 2019 in the line. The stakes could not be higher. I said it once. I'll say it again. I'm Dracos, here with Vedius, hoping for an absolute banger of the series. 2 teams remaining. One of them will go to Worlds and play Fnatic tomorrow to decide the seed. The other one will go home empty-handed and disappointed.
Right. Let's be honest right now, Dracos.
Already?
Because, yeah, we got to enter this right now. Splyce were very slow yesterday, and that is not going to cut it at the World Championships, and it's not going to cut it against the likes of Splyce. So you know what? I'll forgive you against Origin yesterday, but we need to see more from them today if they want to stand a chance against the best teams in the world.
And as we get into the draft, of course, have to keep our eyes on the picks coming out. That will tell us a lot about how these teams want to play the series out, what exactly Schalke are looking to do, or if we see the old corky handshake, Vedius. And it comes down to those 30 to 40-minute games, the late game scaling, the mythical Elder Dragon, so rarely seen these days. But for now, it is the Yuumi and the Sejuani taken off the board.
So the fact that Schalke banned Yuumi suggests that is not what they have on their priority list. And of course, because they cannot first pick it, it would potentially mean giving it away. So they're going to take that one off the board. The Xayah ban is quite interesting from the side of Schalke. Also suggests that they're not looking for a potential Rakan first pick. Right now, we're looking at a potential Aatrox, still up and available. Qiyana is still available as well. Both very strong champions that both teams would likely like to grab for themselves.
Qiyana especially stands out to me. The Aatrox is interesting because, of course, Odoamne picked it up, denied it against Whippo in the Fnatic series, but wasn't able to find much success on it himself. Now, it could be a different story this week as he goes toe-to-toe with Vizichachi, but have to see where the priority lies. It feels like it has to be a Qiyana ban. But of course, things like the Akali, the Corki are up and available if yesterday's series is any indication.
Reminder to viewers at home, we are still playing on patch 9.16. The Akali nerfs have not come through as of yet. Still playing on the playoffs patch, which means that Akali still very strong, still very important. So Akali, Qiyana, both up and available right now. The question is, what does Schalke want to prioritize?
Only gonna get one pick here. A lot of champions still left up and open. Qiyana feels like the obvious choice. Giving Qiyana over to Splyce is always going to be a bit of a nightmare. Could go into the hands of Xerxes or Humanoid.
Schalke have similar flexibility, but are they willing to lock it in here? And the answer is yes. So what will the response be now on the opposite side for Splyce?
Gotta be Akali Kai'Sa. I feel like those would be the next best bet. You can't afford to give both Akali and Qiyana away to a single team because of how versatile your damage portfolio is and how strong that duo is. So immediate lock-in from the side of Splyce and Schalke. They should grab themselves the Sylas, largely because, again, it varies your damage profile. You immediately have both AP and AD damage, and you can flex those two champions between jungle and mid to guarantee yourself the best possible matchup. So I think it would be a safe lock-in from Schalke, and if they wanted to, they could grab the Nautilus now as well, deny the Kai'Sa Nautilus lane that was so prevalent in yesterday's series.
And you can see, despite knowing that they wanted the Sylas, they're sitting, hovering on the pick, trying to buy as much time as humanly possible to make sure that they are getting the best option for themselves. Of course, a lot on the line for both these teams. World's contention, a single best of 5, all coming down to this day. Now taking time. Will it be the Nautilus lock-in? Wouldn't surprise me. You've been, I think, you know, you're 4 for 4 so far, I'm pretty sure, Vedius. Do we get 5 for 5? That would be very spicy. A little different. Tristana is going to be the lock-in. Didn't get picked up a lot yesterday by Patrick, of course, in the late game. Very powerful and does have a certain degree of safety in the early to mid game with the potential to input buffer the rocket jump.
I think Upset is a very confident Tristana player. This is something that he's been playing ever since last year, and I think that it is a strong lane matchup into the Kai'Sa and can match her scaling into the late game. Of course, Kai'Sa very diverse in her ability to dive onto the enemy backline, and her 1v1 potential is extremely strong, but very similar things can be said for Tristana. So I think that it is often a very good answer to the likes of the Kai'Sa, but now we can see that with the Thresh locked in, the Nautilus is going to be taken off the board. That powerful support that was so important in yesterday's series between Splyce and Origin will not be available to Schalke. Meanwhile, Schalke are trying to limit the jungle pool. It is expected that they would have Sylas or Qiyana in the role of the jungles, so they want to try and deny some of those strong skirmish-heavy junglers. Things like Olaf, they could consider banning the Elise. I don't think they need to ban Elise Sin because it's not really a Xerxes champion. They could also consider banning away the Skarner if they're aware of that potential lock.
Xerxes, of course, though, notorious for a pretty deep champion pool in the jungle. Rarely taps into it, but something that it feels like he always has in his back pocket. So for now, it will be the Skarner, the Olaf. A lot of trick champions banned off the board. And the question is, how much innovating has Xerxes been doing so far? What is his next go-to? Will we see something like the Xin? Of course, something we saw from Schalke in the series versus Rogue. Very powerful in the hands of Trick. Well, he grabbed it for himself. Nocturne of Brox's special. And it looks like it is going to get locked in here. So a lot of semi-global presence will definitely help Splyce out in the mid game.
I like this a lot. I think Nocturne has the ability to be active in the early game without very much setup. Just because the moment you hit that level 6, you have the ultimate, you can gank through lane, you can gank pretty much from wherever you want because of the versatility of that semi-global ult. So I like this lock-in from Splyce. Hopefully it creates some a little bit more early game action, and I think that when you have an Akali lane and you have the Thresh lane, you have 2 lanes you can look to play around as well.
And now the response on the opposite side is the Karma. A bit of shielding may help. Potential dive coming in from champions like Akali and the Nocturne. But the real question is, where will it go right now? I think the safe bet would be the top side of the map with the Sylas and jungle, but maybe trying to hide a bit more information. However, Leona's pretty much going to reveal everything for what it is. It will be the Leona Tristana in the bot lane. Still a room for a bit of shuffling on the top side of the map. But the bot lane matchup will be known for certain. And now Splyce get to decide what exactly will Vizicachi play this time around. The Gnar, the Rumble, laning champions with powerful teamfighting ult seems to be his bread and butter. Which one will it be this time around?
Gnar, I think, is what I would expect from Splyce. I think you hit the...
GP.
The Gangplank.
We forgot about GP.
Yeah. Gangplank very safe, but I think Gnar could have worked as well. I think both are pretty safe into the Karma, scale quite well. So once again, for Splyce, a lot of scaling options, a little bit more dive than they had in yesterday's series. We can see with the Gangplank ultimate and the Nocturne ultimate, this comp is very much built towards trying to attack the bot side of the map. With the Thresh, you have decent setup, but it's very dangerous to dive the likes of a Leona, considering how tanky she is. She received some buffs not too long ago, which made it even more tanky thanks to the buffs to her W. And what this Leona will do is provide an engage with which Schalke is currently missing. They have a lot of damage in their composition with the Sylas, Qiyana, and Trist, so all they needed was a way to start fights and then follow up, which is why I like the round out of the Karma and the Leona coming out from Schalke. So again, a lot of team fight, a lot of scaling on both sides as well, but I do think that both teams have some early game options that they can look to leverage.
See exactly how both teams want to play through the early game. A lot of potential for early engages. Hard to say who 100% is going to have the edge. May look like Splyce. Team comp that is ready to pass the baton. Got something like Thresh, who can't be very proactive, the Nocturne as well, but you scale so well with that GP. So well with the Kai'Sa too. We'll have to see which team comes out on top here in the early to mid game, or if we'll have a bit of a slower, more controlled game, as we did yesterday. Both teams coming in with a lot of options, a lot of pressure. Have to wonder if the first game is going to be a bloodbath to test limits, or if it's going to be, you know, cautious, poking, looking for weaknesses, trying to find vulnerability in the enemy's strategy. Well, we're going to find out here. Schalke versus Splyce. Schalke on the blue side, Splyce on the red. Just game one kicking off. If you're just joining us, haven't missed anything quite yet.
And missed literally nothing.
You've missed.
Game has literally just started.
They bought items and they left the base, Vedius. Technically, they would have missed that.
So, very quickly, let's have a look at some of the keystones. Is there anything too crazy coming out? Does not look like it. Comment on the Karma as opposed to the Kleptomancy that we often see. Suggests going for a little bit more poke and harass rather than, you know, that heavy gold investment. Could suggest that we may see more of a AP build from Odoamne rather than more of the supporting. We'll keep track of that and see how it goes. In terms of early game and early pathing for both these junglers, Trick, level 3 gank. That's what I want to see. In terms of where, I think the top lane is not the easiest to gank. However, bot and mid should be 2 of the easiest. So, if he's looking for a potential path, I think that he can just do a full bot side clear because he's Qiyana. And then he can look to attack one of those 2 lanes. Depending on how the wave is pushed in the bot side of the map, will heavily depend on whether bot is an option. And what we can see is that Nocturne is doing a solo clear on the red buff. Nocturne typically does a full clear because you want to get to level 6 as fast as possible. And because of how quick your clear speed is, it's very easy for you to do that, which means that the duo has already started a push from the side of Splyce. You can see that they're already looking to push in, try and get that early level 2, gain some control over the lane. But thanks to a good ward placed from Odoamne, or rather Trick, they will actually have information on where Xerxes is, and this should give Trick more insight into where he wants to look to attack.
And also makes it a bit easier for Upset Ignar to play forward, to not be worried about any kind of playmaking potential, like a flash play forward from Norskaren, or a potential level 2 all-in with the jungler there as well. And now, of course, makes it much easier for Trick to sit comfortably, to get that level 3, to use that extra regen coming in from the red buff, to farm up, scale up a bit safer. And, you know, Qiyana, at first we were really surprised to see a jungle, but it seems like something that we saw Xerxes try out and has been working quite well. But well protected from Humanoid, gets that a little bit of lane pressure and now lays down a bit of vision. So pretty much everything is known about both respective jungle pathing.
So I want to bring attention to these 2 excellent wards that have been placed by Splyce, this one down here and this one right here, because as we were talking about, the expectation was that Trick would look for an early gank. It would either happen bot lane or mid lane, and because of these 2 wards, it makes those ganks that much harder. So Splyce expecting what Trick is going to be doing in the early and mitigating it with some good early vision, which is now going to make that early gank path that much harder for Trick. So he's now just going to focus on clearing his jungle.
Which is good, honestly, when we look at it. Of course, Nocturne, as you said, level 6, much stronger. Qiyana, of course, stronger at level 6, but the potential to flash snare with the hit confirm on the EQ makes her very lethal in early ganks. I don't know how many times we've seen both Trick and Xerxes find level 2, level 3 ganks in this champion. Now I'll know she's headed to the top side, but surprise, surprise, Vizicsacsi already sitting comfortably under that tower. Would have to be willing to commit a lot of resources to force the dive, but Vizicsacsi going to play with enough respect just to back off.
Oh, Vizicsacsi. This guy is always left on an island. He's always forced to fend for himself. We saw a lot of ganks thrown towards that top lane in yesterday's series against Origin, and we're seeing a very similar pattern here. Vizicsacsi wasn't able to get any vision, and we did also see Abadage with the push, able to roam up towards top. So smart from Vizicsacsi, he just backs away from the top tower. It does cost him some farm, but at the very least, he walks away with his life.
And you have to think if any 2 players are feeling the pressure right now. Vizicsacsi and Odoamne, 2 big veteran names, and you know it's been a while since we've seen a Worlds appearance from both of these guys. And Odoamne has to be hungry to get back. Vizicsacsi hungry to get there for the first time, which still surprises me every time I say it. And yet, they're going to be left to 1v1 for the entirety of this series, it feels like. And that's only going to make matters that much worse if you're Vizicsacsi and you're falling behind pretty heavily earlier in the game.
Now, Trick is looking for a gank bot. Shalke know that there is a ward in that bush, so they're waiting for Ignar to go for the engage. but Splyce's bot lane playing very defensively, going to avoid it for now, so that vision will be cleared out. Xerxes, level 4, does have the Krugs available and could focus on leveling, but he sees an opportunity for a gank, so he's going for it.
So step forward, or the one quick movement speed out. Won't be forced to use the flash, but this will set up for Xerxes to help Vizicachi force out. We'll also get Xerxes close to level 6. Humanoid, though, now to be careful. Stunned up, locked up under the tower. Aftershock gonna make sure Abadage gets out healthy. Still, Trick gonna commit here. Good damage goes in, but Humanoid taking so much pressure from the enemy team without losing really anything.
Ignar now joining the mid lane fray. Very uncommon that we actually see Ignar look for these kind of roams. More often than not, he spends a lot of his early game just staying with it, Upset, making sure that they have a strong laning phase. But in this brief window where Upset has looked to reset, Ignar comes up mid to help the rest of his team, and while they're not able to find the kill, they put a lot more pressure down onto Humanoid. Good job on him, though, for staying still close in the farm.
Well played overall. Looks like Ignar and Trick ready to make a play if possible on the bottom side of the map, but of course the result of this, Ignar will not get a chance to back too comfortably here. Most likely going to have to back up for a few creeps or stay to sustain pressure, which means he'll be down a bit in terms of support itemization. Obviously not the end of the world, but definitely not ideal either. Wanted to get the kill there in the mid lane. For now, it will just be the pressure advantage. Abadage level 6 can move first. Humanoid should be able to pick up these waves and get a level 6 of his own. Neither side with really any kind of TP advantage, so level 6 is starting to come in for the solo lane base, as this is maybe when we get to see the GP and the Nocturne combine their global / semi-global ultimates and murder someone, or
that's what we would like to see, Dracos. That's what we wanted to see yesterday.
You can't see, but we're talking very aggressively with our hands a lot. It's an important part of the image.
Yeah,
we want.
So the red buff is spawning soon. Schalke knows that the enemy red buff is spawning soon. And notice how Abadage is keeping this mid lane pushed up from where the vision line is for Schalke. They have access to the entrance of Splyce's jungle with these 2 little wards that were placed just by here and just by here. Having this control means that it's a lot harder for Xerxes to gain access into the topside river, which means that his red buff is open for contest right now. What's very fascinating is that Upset has actually made this roam up towards mid, and we can now see the...
Snare connects. Trying to lock down Humanoid, but he is going to be able to make it out. Shuriken Clip goes right back in. Now the Akali's coming in too. They're just going to delete him. That's the Nocturne level 6. Right on time. The Stolen Akali going to take him to safety, but he's feared, and he's taken out just like that. Xerxes gets the double.
And Xerxes, he gets the level 6 before Trick does. Trick focuses on trying to find another kill and maybe set up an invade onto the red, but Xerxes in a position to be able to create the counter gank. Ooh, we see another fight in bot.
It's going to be fine. The Ignite burned, Upset's flash, forced out in response. Splyce not going to give up any other summoners, but now it's the TP bottom side. Schalke looking to turn this back, looking to get some plays in their favor. North Scaren ready, going to pull him back. He's already used the play, though. Kabe needs to debate when he's going to go in. He is going to get locked up. Waiting, focusing on Kabe. He is going to be able to make it out. North Scaren will be sacrificed. Kabe should be able to get away. Looks like Upset will grab the kill in the end. Both sides going to walk away.
So Odoame, he did have push in the top lane, so he's not going to lose a huge amount for making this roam down, but they're able to get a kill back in favor of Schalke, and we now get to see the pro view from the jungler of Splyce. He sees the moment, the Akali goes back in, he can go for the one-shot. Nocturne is so strong once he hits level 6. He just gets so much raw stats from things like his Q, and his ultimate has such a high base damage. Against squishy targets, you just obliterate them. Really good response there from Xerxes. He's now hit the level 7. He's in a great position on this one.
1.4k gold lead for Splyce, and Xerxes getting closer and closer to that warrior. Huge spike for any jungler.
And look as well at the cooldown of his ultimate. Already almost back up. This is the great thing about Presence of Mind on Nocturne and why I'm a big fan of it. The moment you find that kill, you get a huge refund. And the fact that he found 2 means that that refund...
40%?
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be up very, very soon, and he can immediately look for another gank. Unfortunately, Humanoid's ult isn't going to be up for a while, but Upset's flash is down in the bot lane. So he can either look for another gank mid, or he can look to attack the bot lane.
And I want to talk about something on the side of Schalke, because this is not the first time that we have seen Abadage and Trick go for an aggressive play that could have worked, fail, backfire against them, and turn disastrous. Because you think about it, they anticipated perfect chain CC, we'll lock him up, we'll kill him, Abadage or Humanoid gets out, and suddenly the entire play turns against them on the back of Xerxes having that level advantage, and it's a little worrying, I'm going to say, in Game 1, when we see some of those same weaknesses that we saw in the regular season, coming out here in such a high-stakes game.
So it's one of those things where if you've ever played against Schalke, you know Trick spends a huge amount of time around mid lane. And one of the great things about Nocturne that was utilized against G2 is he can come out of nowhere. He can turn a 1v2 into a 2v2 or a 2v2 into a 2v3. His ability to counter gank is very strong, even if he's not quite in the right place, because his ultimate compensates for that. And I feel like this was a situation where Shalke thought Xerxes would get level 6 on his red buff. That's why their goal was to set up a challenge around that red buff. But they do not expect him to already be level 6 and in a position to counter, so they end up getting punished. And it's one of those things that could come from maybe you don't play against a huge amount of Nocturne, but look, they're looking for another play bot.
There, North Karen going to play back. The CC is there. North Karen still alive. However, lands the hook. Xerxes now on a killing spree. Shalke overcommitted. Splyce is just mowing them down. Upset gets the reset. Rocket jumps out to safety, but Kave says, I can follow. Gets another one. Abaddon on the way down the stun. Is he going to turn to Yelena? No, this could be the double kill for Kave. He's going forward. Does he have the stolen ultimate? It looks like it was spell shielded out. The hijack has been spell shielded. Abaddon has nothing. He does not have an ult to re-engage. Now pulling back. Abaddon trying to do what he can, but Humanoid is on the hunt for blood. Flashes out to safety. Pulls it back. That's not what he wanted. Oh no! Xerxes on a rampage. 4 kills for the Nocturne. That is tragic.
And Splyce now sit with 6 kills 10 minutes into the game. Draco's coming into this series. We said we needed to see more from Splyce in the early game, and they are showcasing it against the likes of Schalke. Fantastic early game lead, 2.6k already in their favor. Things looking good for Splyce.
And I love this Nocturne pick. I mean, 4-0-2, the scoreline obviously looks nice, but it seems like not only is Xerxes generally in the area that he needs to be in all times, he's also building a jungle CS lead, so he's farming camps, he's killing people, he's carrying the game. What is not to like?
I'm telling you, this champion is broken.
Yeah, but when you say it, it means nothing.
So, again, I want to reinforce how great this champion is at counter-ganking. He was already pathing towards the bot side of the map. The moment the engage comes through from the side of Schalke, he gets to answer. Now, admittedly, Norscaran, because he doesn't have flash, ends up getting blown up by the likes of Upset, but then they go for the re-engage. They think that with Abaddon there, they can make this 2 versus 2 happen. They actually start off quite strong, but then the Akali joins the fray. You'll see here a very unfortunate situation where he tries to land the stun underneath the tower, but because its range is so long, just as the Akali flashes out, it falls.
Vizichachi now running. He's going to get sidestep 80% slow. Vizichachi should fall here. Trick. No, Upset going to grab that one. And the Rift Herald has been summoned on the top side. Action kicking off once again. 2k gold lead so far for Splyce. A few more tower plates going to help that one grow.
So Splyce choosing to swap lanes. Norscaran now looking for a dive mid.
Oh, that's going to go in. Now stolen a call. Y'all can just dash in, dash out to safety. Where's he going to go? Not a lot of options left. Kingmaker going to make sure he gets some of that health back. Abaddon living for a long time, but Splyce not going to lose a single member in the process.
Robstar Abaddon, he plays that about as well as he can. And in the meantime, with 3 people being invested mid, Schalke actually get to secure the bot tower and defend the top one. Typically, you would invest your jungler and support towards top side to make this cross-map play happen. So as Schalke was sieging onto that bot tower, by utilizing your 3 members and Rift Herald, you may even be able to secure that opposing tower first. But because they committed to the mid dive, only Kobe and the Rift Herald were sieging onto the top tower, which means Odoamne is enough to hold it. So Schalke have actually gained a lot more map control off of Splyce trying to force that dive mid when, again, they didn't really need to. And now we're starting to see a couple of those moments that we did see from Splyce where they would try and force plays that they did not necessarily need to do, and they get slightly punished as a result.
And now we have to see, can they slow down? Can they compose themselves? Can they look for more clean plays coming out? Because their lead is not gone yet. They still have a very fed Akali. They have a very fed Nocturne. Things look pretty good. He's getting closer to level 11. But of course, the later and later you go, the easier and easier it is for this Tristana and this Karma to be kind of this unkillable duo in mid to late game fights. So have to give that respect over. Can't afford to make too many more mistakes. But luckily for them, good bit of vision does mean that they know just about everything that Schalke was trying to do at this moment.
Scaling is a bit of a weird one for me. I feel like both comps do scale quite well. Because of the Karma, a part of me feels that when you have a support that provides this much shielding, especially with the amount of AP that Odoamne is going to build, there should be a slight scaling advantage on that side. But in all honesty, I feel a lot of it's going to come down to execution, how the fights actually play out, where they're being set up around. But I do think this game will be decided by these late game fights, which should come as no surprise if you've followed Schalke and Splyce throughout the regular season. This was their bread and butter. This is what they relied on. It definitely worked out for Schalke in playoffs, securing 3rd at the end of the split. Not quite so much for Splyce.
No, did not, of course, cut short by Rogue. Lineup that surprised many in the playoffs run. Sadly, spring performance meant that they could not make it to this gauntlet today. Schalke and Splyce, though, still, once again, playing for that world seed. 14 minutes into the game, 3 kill advantage for Splyce, about 2k gold in their favor as well. And Just eyes on the scaling, eyes on the itemization. You can see quite clearly how far behind Shalke are. You've already got a Turning Force in the hands of the GP, the Gunblade, the Warrior, and a Serrated Dirk in the hands of Xerxes. Even he, though, is going to take a little stop for some Ninja Tabby on the way. I prefer Duskblade because you just, defensive items are for cowards, but, you know, I guess if you want to keep winning. But that's going to be the thing. Kobbe now trying to escape. Perfect Lantern. The cleanse comes out too, but Xerxes there on the backside. They might just be able to turn this fight. Shalke pushing for a little bit more. TP has been used. Can look to go back in. Odoamne running forward, but honestly, fantastic disengage by Splyce to make it out of what should have been certain death for Kobbe.
Clutch cleanse along with flash from Kobbe to be able to get out of that, combined with the Lantern, as you mentioned, Dracos. And one thing we often don't get to see from Nocturne is the ultimate being used defensively. I for sure can say that I never use it defensively, but the amount of vision that it actually limits means that chasing is very difficult, because even if you have wards, it doesn't matter. All of that becomes nullified, and so trying to overextend, overcommit to that fight immediately gets dissuaded. So Splyce, they walk away with their members alive, but of course, because everyone is forced to back, they can't hold on to the mid-tier 1, allowing Schalke to siege. And again, Odoamne is in a position to help defend these towers. So still a gold lead in favor of Splyce, but Schalke doing a pretty solid job of slowing the game down and trying to find a couple of picks back themselves.
And of course, this is where a lot of the criticism comes levied against a lot of teams, is when you look at teams like Fnatic and G2, you see how they can kind of just blow a gold lead in a game wide open. But of course, for Splyce and Schalke, it's a little bit slower here, not quite as willing to take some of those crazy risks, but Sting's still going fine. Vizicachi going to continue to grab a bit more gold. A Cloud Drake going over the hands of Xerxes. So while Schalke are doing well, they're still at about the same deficit that they have been, with that tower dropping. It will now extend to about 3k gold, and Schalke have opted for a full reset across the map.
First strike of the game going to be secured. Splyce now actually sit with a solid 3,000 gold lead. A lot of that obviously on the Nocturne. 4-0-3, been involved in every single kill of the game so far. Already level 10. Farmer Nocturne, I'm very happy to be this close to level 11 because of the bonus range you get on your ultimate and the cooldown reduction as well.
Also, if you're Xerxes, you're really happy because look at how many bans went towards him. You know, both bans of the second phase went towards him, taking the Skarner, taking the Olaf off the board, gets put on the Nocturne, and is having a fantastic game. That's going to fumble a lot of Schalke's future draft plans. And additionally, you talked about Splyce having the dive options that you're like, ooh, they got the Nocturne, they got the GP, they can be the ones to make the aggressive plays. But despite that, Schalke kept playing into them, seeing the GP, seeing the Nocturne. So it feels like Splyce are, to a certain degree, getting everything that they want out of this early to mid game. May want the gold lead to be a little bit bigger, but it is only 16 minutes into the game.
Ooh, I do like this Phantom Dancer being picked up by Upset as well, because it really mitigates a lot of the burst potential that a Nocturne has. Now that Xerxes hit level 11, something that Schalke have to be very cautious of is how they play around the side lanes. And just look at the positioning of Nocturne right now on your minimap. You can see that he's just hanging around the top side, and it's very easy for him to just ult into a side lane, try and attack someone who's just trying to catch a wave, catch bomb, and he's at a point where he will 1v1 you. It doesn't matter who you are. Upset, Abadage, Trick, they will all be one-shot by this
He turns nameplates off when he ults. He's blind to that.
And so it's something that Schalke have to be very careful, and that's what I like from Abadage. Of course, he has no control over the top side of the map, which is part of the reason why he's not overextending, but it becomes very difficult for Schalke to overextend. And I like that Splyce are actually generating a lot of pressure on their sides. They can now push in bot, push in top, and look to collapse in mid. I love this flank from Humanoid because now they can siege onto the mid tier 1.
Big GP ultimate comes out. Upset not going to be able to stick around for too long. Ignore though, pushing for the flank. They are going to go forward onto the support. They're going to take him out immediately, but now the Nocturne jumps right in the background. That's so much damage, but Xerxes is going to be in trouble. Abadage going in. He's going to be able to grab a kill in the end. That's the shutdown. That's going to be massive. A stolen GP ult. It's going to start landing down some damage. Kobbe and Vizicachi on the hunt, looking for Abadage. Humanoid ready to go over the wall, but Abadage is certainly dead. Odoamne and Upset left standing, but they cannot go back in. Trick though, you see moving forward, moving with a lot of confidence at this point. Humanoid can leap in a second, look for an execute. A lot of low health bars on both sides. In the end, Humanoid forced to flash away, respecting the sustained power and the shielding of the Karma on the opposite side.
Great flank coming in from Schalke to defend their mid-tier 1, because Splyce, while they are strong, unfortunately, they got split up at that fight, allowing Schalke to find a great opportunity to find themselves some kills. So their ability to actually sneak in here was good because of just these very few control wards. Both Trick and Ignar were able to come in from behind, land onto Kobbe, and force Kobbe and Xerxes to just split away from their support. That allows them to get this initial kill, and then this is also where we see some of the advantages of playing a Tristana jumping away from the Nocturne, who then drops off the back of Abadage. Now, of course, Schalke are the ones split up, which is where Splyce's comp can really thrive because of their strong dueling prowess. But at the end of the day, considering the goal deficit the Schalke found themselves in, that was a pretty solid fight that they're able to keep that mid-tower alive with.
And honestly, just very impressed across the board. Schalke able to find that fight still, though, on the side of Splyce. Xerxes having a phenomenal game. Sadly, the team play there comes out caught against him. Last time he had this good of a K+8 was week 8. Not harkening back to some of the disappointing performances up against Rogue. And Splyce now resetting. I mean, the Baron not really on the table yet for either of these teams. There's no Mountain Drakes. The Kaisa a little bit later can start to shred through it, but without any full tanks on either lineup, Baron becomes a lot more difficult, a lot more about what picks can something like a Thresh or a Leona get you to open up this play as an option.
Yeah, Baron's just going to be used as a means to like fight. No,
which I love. Look,
yeah.
Look, after yesterday, we're like 3 months away from me begging Riot support to implement Battle Royale mode where like a wall of fire forces you to fight. So I'll take it. I'll take it today, you know?
That's fair. I respect that. I'd love to see more fighting. The fact that we've already had 15 kills in 20 minutes.
No, this is excellent.
An improvement from what we saw from yesterday. And again, props to Splyce. We said that they needed to showcase more. I feel like that they have done so coming in today. Yes, there are a couple of fights that I don't think they needed to take. But all in all, definitely very quick progression being made from Splyce in a very short time span. But Schalke, they're not completely out of this game yet. Upset in a very strong position. 3-1-3 is his scoreline right now. His itemization is coming on nicely, and the engage comes through once again.
Chachi is going to get locked with the Lantern. Is right there. Nocturne ultimate coming out as well, but a huge stun comes into the Kiana. Chachi just barely going to be able to make it out, but now the re-engage comes in. Instantly, Trick goes down. Upset has jumped down. He's reset the fight for now. So he's going to step forward. Upset is the guy you have to keep your eyes on. Has to flash away from the hook. Ignar being the front line of the team needs Abadage. Does he have the hijack up and available? Not going to be an option. Goes back in. He's going to fish for it. The Petrosite burst. Picking up 2 in an instant. Double kill goes in for Abadage.
And Schalke once again find another successful team fight. The money is slowly starting to come back into their control. And yes, while they are still in a deficit, you can see that just the way they're playing out these fights is something that Splyce cannot handle. Schalke will secure themselves their first strike of the game. They'll find some nice shutdowns and will stop the push from Splyce.
Vedius, we talked about team fighting, and right now it feels like that's where Schalke has an edge, and the later we get, the more important team fighting is. But as we look at this, solid start coming in for Schalke. Looks like it might have been a turn for Splyce, but this just gets counted against them on the back of a honestly beautiful team.
I mean, the strangest thing about it is Splyce have such a massive goal lead, and this was 5 versus 4, yet they still could not lock down a single member. And because Vizichachi was chunked out at the start, and after they killed Trick, it felt like that they weren't really sure what else they wanted to do, because they ran out of crowd control. They couldn't really continue the chase. So they kind of awkwardly stayed in this middle ground where they weren't close enough to engage, but they were just out of range enough to allow Upset to find engage. And now, Humanoid is just going to get picked off.
Yeah, just instantly deleted.
So Splyce is now starting to fall apart as we enter the mid-game, and Schalke is aptly punishing them in every single instance.
And those side lane picks are exactly what we thought Splyce would be doing, with the Nocturnal, with the GPL, but they're not able to. And credit to Schalke for staying group, for limiting the options here, because while Splyce definitely came out the gate swinging with this Nocturne pick, they have not been able to sustain that momentum whatsoever.
No, they have not. And a part of it feels like that they've been trying to force fights that, I mean, even again, that river fight could have been good for them if they'd just taken the pick and then left, disengaged. But they used everything to kill onto Trick, and then they wanted to try and get more. That allowed time for Odoamne to rejoin the fight, and then the moment he was there, it was easy for them to get the collapse. And it's one of these things that we're starting to see a lot more now from Splyce, where it's like, if they see an opportunity to fight, they don't necessarily think through if it is the best time to fight. And often they end up getting punished as a result.
And I think the thing here for me, Vedius, is we talked about comparable scaling, but the bigger thing is that I think it's just harder to play Splyce's comp if you don't one-shot 1 or 2 people right out the gate with the Akali, with the Nocturne, because at the end of the day, you're going up against a Karma. So if you miscalculate your damage when you leap in, you don't kill anybody, all your cooldowns are gone, and if you're an Akali, an aggressive Kaisa, or a Nocturne, you go from looking very, very powerful, as Xerxes did in the first 10-15 minutes, to, well, sitting there wondering how this happened.
Once Xerxes gets his GA, he should feel a lot more confident to actually threaten and dive the backline. Ignar right now is sitting on top of a ward.
They're starting to come in. 25-second stun. We'll be forced to flash away. Team was coming in. But of course, Leona, just so much tankiness there on that Eclipse.
Still forces the flash out though, so nice summoner spell gained. As we can see some of the vision right now, just kind of littered around the bot side of the map in favor of Splyce, largely to allow Vizichachi to play through that lane. Schalke were using that time to try and get some vision control around the top side river, but because Ignar was forced to flash, Upset was looking to reset, that means that Schalke could not maintain this control, so Splyce kind of have wards littered all over the map right now. Still, leveraging the gold advantage that they have. But I do feel like this gold advantage means less and less because, honestly, the difference is between the junglers. And as you said, if the Nocturne isn't one-shotting and insta-killing people, then it doesn't matter what that gold is being done because the mid laners are even, the AD carries are even. I would argue the Upset right now is even ahead because, oh, never mind, the Mana is now fully stacked. But yeah, like
gold.
Yeah, you can even see the gold is in favor of Upset, and Abadage is even with Akali, and these are the main damage dealers. And all Odo needs to do is provide support and utility for his team, and Trick is basically just an ultimate at this point. Yes, you would like it if he could do damage as well, but his role is to just set up the plays for the two main carries of Abadage and Upset. So even though Schalke is at a 3k gold deficit, I don't think they're actually at a 3k gold deficit.
Well, the gold just isn't everything. At the end of the day, champion scaling, levels, always going to be things that you need to take into account. And just looking at it, very hard for Splyce to get much done at this stage because, I mean, we talk about it, but the Nocturnal, very great when the team is split up. Oh no, where could he be? When you're stacked as 5, it just doesn't matter. Now Humanoid will be locked up. A perfectly timed and placed Lantern, though, from Northscarin will take him out to safety. Well played by the Thresh to make sure that will happen. But now, of course, Schalke highway into this Baron pit if they want to lay down the vision. They don't have nearly enough control wards, though, in the jungle and AD carry, or in the mid lane AD carry role, respectively. That's bad. There's got to be coaches out there flaming them for this. You really don't need the Doran shield.
Yeah, he really doesn't. He could just grab a control ward, Upset. Is that
if he lives in any following fight with 10 HP or less,
we'll give it to
100 HP or less, we'll say, just given all those stats.
You were right.
You will say you were right all along, Upset. Otherwise, maybe would have behooved him to get a few more control wards.
We fools do not understand
we
the
just
power of Doran
We are
shields.
not big brain enough to appreciate how well that item scales into the game.
All right, Infernal spawns 20 seconds. Really important Drake. Both teams really want it. Akali's top, but of course the teleport is available, and so he's just generating pressure in a side lane as Shalke look to take control over the river.
This is that arena you were talking about, Betty. It's the potential for this team to kick off a fight. Ignar taking a lot of damage already, but Trick is on the backside. Has rooted up Northscarin. Abadage coming over the wall, but they'll have perfect information now on where every member of Schalke is. Abadage and Trick fading back into Fog of War and instantly spotted out again. Humanoid, meanwhile, gonna TP in now on the top side. Maybe the break is here. Upset over the wall. Odoamne there. He's gonna go back into the pit. However, a lot of damage coming down. The lockup is there from the side of Trick, but the Nocturne's now coming in. That's gonna be one shot. Zersen needs to make it out to safety, but you cannot get away from this Karma without the use of the flash. Will be forced to make it out over the wall. Meanwhile, perfect access to the pit, but Upset is looking for the resets. Has to back off the hook. Not going to connect. Upset, this is his moment. This is his time to shine. Can he get a little bit more done with the leap back in? The Shuriken flip. Humanoid manages to take him out just like that. Honestly, clean fight coming in from the side of Splyce. So scattered, but so well played.
And disastrous for Schalke. It felt like they wanted to find a pick onto Vizicachi, but the moment they saw Trick, they were forced to disengage. Then as 3 people, they start the Dragon. Look, Ignar and Odoamne, they went bot lane. Schalke are scattered right now, and Splyce immediately take advantage of this. They kill Abadage, the Nocturne dives onto the back line and shuts down Trick. And this kind of team fighting is not what we expect from Schalke. The Baron now being started off. Vizicachi taking a lot of damage.
We're taking turns. Playing a game of catch.
He's gonna die. He's gonna die.
Oh no, do his own ultimate. Oh, he's gonna make it out. Okay, that would have been embarrassing. But that was definitely over.
Hey, but now Schalke can actually start Baron if they want. They don't have control over mid, but they might be forced to make this sacrifice anyway. Zeus's ultimate is unavailable. Here they go.
Just a game of catch, Vedius. You take a turn throwing, I'll take a turn throwing, or see who gets the ball in the end. And for now, it is Schalke. See what Splyce can do here. Zeus on the way in, but no flash for the Nocturne. TP now burned. Schalke have information of this. They need to be careful. AK getting lowered.
This is bad now.
The hook doesn't connect. He doesn't have a way back to the pit. Humanoid has to be careful. Ultimate for the Akali is not available yet. 6k getting lower. The Karma shielding and doing a little bit, but that's the gangplank all now coming in.
This is bad.
The damage goes in. Northscarin is going to lock up the jungle, and that's it. 4k health. They need to reset the Baron. They need to make sure that Splyce cannot get back into this pit. This is disastrous for the side of Schalke. They have stayed for way too long, but in comes the Nocturne. Denied the kill, but it does not even matter. The Karma running for her life, but Odoamne just looks useless in the fight. 2 kills for Kabe.
There's the dive power of Splyce's comp. The Nocturne goes in, the Gangplank is there as well. And you follow it up with the Kai'Sa for the cleanup. Beautifully played fight from Splyce. A lot of patience being shown, and they just let the Baron do all the work. You said it at the beginning of the game, Dracos. Neither of these teams are really built for extended fights around the Baron, and we saw why. Schalke couldn't tank it up. Splyce took advantage of that, and let's be honest, the moment Northscarin landed a hook onto Trick, he just relied on his buddy Baron to finish it off.
It was so easy for them, Vedius, and I can't wait to look back at this because the one way Splyce wins a fight is if you get really low beforehand. That's where all their champions become very OP. What do Schalke do? The only thing that can get them low before the fight.
They just had to be patient on the side of Splyce. You can see that their health bars haven't been touched. Meanwhile, ooh, the W from the Kai'Sa into the ulti. Oh, they don't even need the Nocturne. Yeah, the dive really, really strong there. So, well played from Splyce. They're now going to secure themselves the Baron. And even though that initial Baron, not so good, they made up for it with the second one.
Absolutely did. And now the gold lead is just exploding. Upset, though. A man on a mission. Trying to get this back, but it is an 11K gold lead for the side of Splyce. They also got the Infernal. We can't forget. So things are going to go from bad to worse very quickly, especially as the Nocturne ult is up and available once more. So Xerxes comfortable to push in that side lane and still be able to contribute to a potential mid lane fight. They've identified the member they want to attack, though, on the side of Schalke. And we talked about, you know, scaling advantages. Potentially Upset can make this work as we move later into the game. But still, yeah, 10K gold lead, you know, 4.5 item Kai'Sa. Things are definitely not getting easier for the side of Schalke.
I mean, all right.
Oh, no. Baited out, blocks the stun. Now trying to heal up Kingmaker. Flash away. They are going to focus their sights. They're going to commit to this play fully. They want to desperately kill Xerxes. He is going to get taken down. GA now comes up. Adage has to be careful.
It's going to 1v2.
He's going to walk away. Xerxes does not get hit. Trick messes it up. No, you can't do that. Oh, it was perfect from the side of Xerxes. He's still alive. Meanwhile, the base Humanoid's going to die for some reason. Shut down. Goes over to Ignar, but in the meanwhile, Splyce are going to break the mid lane too.
I've been telling people for too long, this champ is strong. Daniel Draco's 1 versus 2 coming out from Xerxes with the Nocturne. Beautifully played. You don't need mechanics to outplay your opponents. You just got to hit him. You just got to stab him with your stabby arms. That's all you need to do to outplay him. Beautiful stuff from Xerxes. I love this champ.
Oh my god. My god. All right.
Oh, nice. We're getting the replay. We're getting the replay.
Get the replay.
Oh, no. We're getting the replay of the mid lane. All right, so we get to see Humanoid looking to set up players onto Odo. Okay,
that's the good part.
That was smooth.
Oh, Shuriken Flip is marked Upset. Here we go. Cleanse.
Yeah, well played there from Humanoids.
No, this
is
never
mind. No. All right, so Ignar keeps his AD carry alive there. Nicely done.
Observer, special request. If they're not going to kill each other for like 30 seconds, can you give us the Nocturne replay? Because we need to see, did Xerxes spell shield Trick's ultimate?
Yeah, he did.
Or did Trick miss it? Okay, I thought Trick just whipped it up the cheek.
No, he spell shielded it.
All right,
The thing about Nocturne is whenever you're dueling someone, you just got to pick that one skill that you know you need to spell shield. And as long as you spell shield it, you'll win almost every duel. That's why DPS champions are really annoying, because you can't spell shield DPS. Dive is coming through.
Hold that thought. There's a siege going on. There's a replay happening at the same time. Spell shield's the first skill. We're double play-by-playing here. You're going onto the top side. Also, things are happening on your main screen. And the small screen, Nocturne's using a stolen ultimate, rather Silas is. Also, Splyce are breaking the base. Lots of stuff happening here. Cleanse now coming out. Splyce now going to leap in. Main screen, have to keep your eyes on that fight, because in goes Kave. That's going to be all too easy. Kave now needs to back up. Doesn't even need to. His front line is there to protect him. They're trying to get something back. Abadage simply cannot do it. Double kill comes in for Kave. Splyce, honestly, just destroying on that bottom side siege, and now they're going to move in. They're going to make their mark on game 1. 32 minutes, they're going to pick up their first win.
Strong performance from Splyce in game 1. The Nocturne doing a lot of work with a lot of counter ganks to answer a lot of what Shalke tried to do. You said it, Dino Dracos.
Stab him with your stabby arms. That's what you said. Stab him with your stabby arms, Splyce. That's the game in a nutshell right there.
But it was in the draft where you were talking about how Xerxes, he got heavily banned out. A lot of his champions were really limited. But then he brought out the Nocturne. We didn't get to see it once in yesterday's series, and now he brings it out today, and it really helped Splyce through the early game. It enabled them to get a pretty solid goal lead. Yes, they did make a couple of mistakes. They took a couple of fights that were dangerous for them, but at the same time, they punished a huge number of team fight blunders that we saw from Schalke. The Drake fight, when they split apart. 3 members on the Drake, 2 members bot. Immediately, Splyce went for the dive. Around the Baron, they were patient. They bought time while Schalke was just killing themselves underneath the Baron, and then once again, they struck. So, good patience being demonstrated from Splyce, and a lot more action compared to what we saw yesterday.
And I like it because it seems like they learned from their fumbles. Because we saw 1 or 2 fights where they misexecuted, where Schalke was able to get some hope to kind of get back into the game. And after that, they kind of waited for Schalke to make the moves. They said, hey, we're going to wait for you to make a mistake, and we're going to exploit it. And it was the Dragon, and then it was the Baron, admittedly Splyce making a fumble, but then Schalke overstay, and it all goes back in the favor of Splyce. And that's just how the cookie crumbles, folks. So let's see what the analyst desk has to say about that game 1.
Thank you very much, Dracos. The analyst, that is FLICKR and still Yamato Cannon. And Gilius has joined us. as well. Definitely a better game out of Splyce than the ones they showed us yesterday, which is hopeful. And I want to remind us back to our pre-series expectations and what actually happened in this first game. Starting with the picks and bans, you had an ideal comp for both sides. Tell me if these compositions lived up to those expectations for you, Yamato.
I think the big thing here is that Splyce had a bottom matchup that's very hard to punish. There was the Leona into the trash. We had the Gangplank, love the Gangplank, leave Vizicachi on an island, it works, and Xerxe finally came to life. He was on the Nocturne, he was doing the big plays, he got ahead, and it was wonderful to see.
And I like the point that you bring up of that it's really hard to punish this bot lane, not only because of the inbuilt safety of having access to the Lantern when Northscaran is on Thresh, but if you ever look for a play down there, especially post level 6, you're competing against the Paranoia from Nocturne as well as the Cannon Barrage from Gangplank. Ultimately, Splyce knew exactly what Schalke's game plan was going to be. They're probably going to attack us through Upset and Ignar, and if they come, we're going to bring more tools to flip it back around.
Gilius, what stood out about the draft?
Yeah, so I think the mid game will probably decide most games today. And whatever draft is stronger in the mid game will win. And I think Splyce exactly got what they needed. It's like kind of a level 6 comp. Every single champ becomes really strong level 6. And they also have a lot of counter matchups, I feel like. Schalke's comp has to like 1-3-1, I think, this game, and GP counters it, has a lot of wave clear. Nocturne kills side laners really easy. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it was also super telling about a lot of the matchups and kind of almost daring Schalke to take certain matchups. The fact that they were fine giving away both Qiyana and Silas tells me that they're fine playing the Akali-Silas matchup. I saw that they were looking a lot to Humanoid and Abba about, okay, who's going to win this one? We saw Caps and Nemesis duking that one over. And then you also wanted to point out the Yuumi ban.
Yeah, I think both of these teams just don't want to play Yuumi. Something else that we saw in this series so far is that I think Nocturne, to think about it, I think it counters every pick that Odoamne would love to play. If you want to play the Karma, the Rumble, even the GP, Nocturne preys on champions like this. Always you're going to get pressured, and this Karma was barely farming on that side lane.
It was. I do want to move on to our first replay because we had so much criticism for Xerxe and his early game coming in, and he did a lot more now. But Gilius, you were saying it's not that hard to just wait till level 6 with Nocturne.
Yeah, I mean, as we can see here, he farmed to 6 with Nocturne, and he instantly counter ganks mid, and they get a double kill. And this skirmish definitely broke up the game.
What you're saying is it's an easier game plan for him?
Definitely, like, it really fits Xerxe. He likes to chill in the early game, drink his coffee, and just like take it easy. And Nocturne, you farm to 6, and then you just kill people. And I think Xerxe did a great job, but I'm sure that Trick will fight back next game.
And what do you think about that particular matchup of Nocturne into Qiyana? Because we were talking about it backstage, there's very different windows. Qiyana obviously has gank potential before level 6, whereas Xerxe is just trying to do power farming before he just has so much pressure over the map.
So I don't have too much experience in this matchup because I don't play useless junglers like Qiyana. But definitely, like, Qiyana has to do something in the early game, level 3. It's like a scrim, solo queue champ. You get first blood, you get second kill mid, and Nocturne is the kind of champ who wants to just farm to 6, and then you win every matchup, usually with squishy champs. So
does the desk agree that it's a useless champ in a jungle? Because it's been seeing a lot of play here.
Yeah, I would say in the right hands.
Okay.
Trick, we know him for Sejuani, the Gragas, the Skarner, the more, you know, vegetarian jungles that like to relax and, you know, scale into the game.
I'll take the vegan options, please.
Qiyana is a carnivore. You need to strike hard, level 3. It's more of a champion that would work really well in the LPL, for example. Maybe in Xerxes' hand because he can get creative. I think it's something that is very explosive. If you don't get ahead, all of a sudden it kind of looks like crap.
I just feel like Trick had really clear windows or champions that he needed to play with. He needed to play with his Leona and he needed to play with his Silas. You can see the potential CC setup or CC lock between a Silas and a Qiyana, but you need to make it happen. And if this is a champion that he's not necessarily as comfortable on, or certainly didn't look as comfortable on that game, and then it doesn't happen, then you are just going to fall over where Nocturne's going to have so much more pressure as soon as he has access to his ultimate. So there was a window. I feel like Trick missed it, and hopefully he doesn't miss it next game.
Yeah, he missed it, and then things went kind of from bad to worse for Schalke, I would say, even though they had moments in the game where they definitely fought back. This bot lane fight did not go in their favor. It could have maybe been worse, but it's kind of a comedy of errors, and in the end, Splyce get a lot of kills there.
Okay.
Oh, this is the decider.
This is the one where everyone's like, ooh, ah. So ultimately, Trick tries to team up with his kill-oriented bot lane. You know it's going to come, but it's the window. The window has already closed. It's post-level 6 on Nocturne. It's post-level 6 on the Gangplank. And he goes in, and suddenly both those ultimates come down, and Splyce are able to turn this around with a delayed roam from Humanoid. And at this point, once Akali's picking up kills and she has access to Gunblade, Gillies, who called it a level 6 composition, first item power spike, it was pretty GG at this point.
Yeah, I think if Schalke just played the early game also a bit cleaner, like Yamato and me talked about the Xylas, like the ultimates she had this game, GP ult, Nocturne ult, pretty crazy ults on Xylas. And yeah, Schalke just needs to stabilize the early game and also pick better for the mid game. Yep. And I think Trick, as Yamato also said, is much better on these Sejuani, Gragas, Javan. So yeah.
Well, taking a look at the final fight we want to show you is around the Infernal Drake, because Xerxes proved his worth in the early game, and here he really kills the game by this move, Yamato, and they were actually on the back foot at this point of the game. So
I'm very happy to see Splyce actually taking the fights, because in past games we've seen in the mid to late game that they've been quite scared. But I think the biggest problem here is that Shalke actually were very kind of uncoordinated. They had some people over the Dragon Wall, they had some in the pit, and they had to burn flashes very early on. Splyce saw the opportunity, seized it with the divers on Akali and the Nocturne, and the fight was over and they got the Nash.
The reason why I say Splyce was on the back foot, they were still ahead in Goldfrost, but we'd seen that Schalke has fought back. They got a couple of skirmishes where it showed the promise of that late game Tristana.
And this is where I kind of want to give credit to Duke. We were talking about this. I do think that Duke made a composition that kind of almost ease of execution. It was really cool because you have that dive potential of the Gangplank ultimate, the reach of the Akali and follow of the Nocturne and things like that to assassinate a backline. So Schalke were stuck in a position where we have no lane assignments. You know, we lost in the early game. Akali has snowballed ahead. We have a Karma. It's against a Gangplank. If Nocturne shows up into either of these side lanes, we're screwed. So they just start sprinting at Splyce, and they try to hit them first. And it works out a bit, which I credit Schalke to. That was literally the only game plan that was going to be viable for them. But at the end of the day, when everyone was ready, when it did come to that Infernal, it showed that Splyce were ahead. They had gold on the assassination. They had an easier to execute composition, and they just rolled Schalke over.
What does this spell for the games that are coming, and game 2 most notably?
I think Schalke just need to rethink their draft. Trick on an easier to execute champion, they need to have a bot lane matchup that's actually good. Rakan was open this game. They opted in to pick Leona into Thresh. They need to have a matchup bottom that is explosive, that they can actually make something happen. It was too difficult this game. Hard to gank Thresh, hard to gank Akali. They need to maybe ban Akali, pick the Kaiser, something like that.
All right, let's see what happens. It's been a long road for Splyce, but 2019 could be the year they return to Worlds. We'll see if Schalke can bounce back after this.
We can now see the... Ooh, Stair connects. Trying to lock down Humanoid, but he is going to be able to make it out. Sure, the clip goes right back in. Now the Akali's coming in too. They're just going to delete him. That's the Nocturne level 6. Right on time. The Storm Akali going to take him as but he's feared.
He has no ult. I don't...
That's fine, it's fine. All well played, Mark. I don't know what happened. Nice. Good job.
The team needs Abadage. Does he have the hijack up and available? Not going to be an option. Goes back in. He's going to fish for it. The Petra site burst.
Go. This. Nice. Help me. Yeah, we are here. Can we end top? Or what do you think? Just the Nash.
Friends now coming out. Splyce now going to leap in. Main screen. Have to keep your eyes on that fight because in goes Kave. That's going to be all too easy. Kave now needs to back up. Doesn't even need to. His front line is there to protect him. They're trying to get something back. Abadage simply cannot do it. Double kill comes in for Kave.
Hi, I'm Pringles.
I'm Chips. Wait, are we doing this Mac versus PC thing?
Guess so.
Then I am the Mac of the chips.
Cool. Then I'm the PC. Perfect for gaming. Easy to eat, no greasy hands.
Wait, I'm into gaming too.
You mean like into the keyboard crumbled?
No.
Or into the TeamSpeak rustling?
No, I'm into that noob frag LOL thing.
Well then, GG, my friend.
No, we're doing the clap first.
Answering
questions in Swedish.
Hello, Pedro.
Oh, well, thank you very much. How are the children?
It's time for our question of the day. What would be your dream Medivedi intro?
What about fireworks?
But what about a choir?
Zipline.
Or a choir?
What about parachutes?
But a choir!
Someone that's afraid to let go. You decide if you're ever gonna let me know. Suicide if you ever try to let go. I'm sad, I know you. I'm sad, I know you. Who am I? Someone that's afraid to let go. You decide if you're ever gonna let me know. Suicide if you ever try to let go. I'm sad, I know you. I'm sad, I know you. If you ever go, like you if you ever go, like you
Welcome back to the League of Nocturne, your favorite show about all things darkness and darkness related, or at least that's how you would call it if you were on the side of Schalke in the previous game. It is, of course, Schalke versus Splyce. One final spot remaining, one world slot remaining nonetheless, but Schalke off to a rough game one. Definitely brutal as Splyce dominated in the mid to late game.
Well, let's see what adaptations get made. Schalke, because they lost, they get choice of side selection coming into game 2, and they have chosen to stay on the blue side. I very much agree with what the analyst desk was saying. I feel like the early game was something that I had a bit of an issue with. There were also some doubts around Trick's performance on the Kiana. I think that the Nocturne pick was just a great answer, and it really shut down what she tried to do because she wasn't able to find any ganks before level 6. If she had, maybe the game could have gone a little bit different, and perhaps Schalke think the same way. We're going to have to wait and see as we jump into draft for game 2.
Time to find out, has anything changed in the picks and bans, or will we get the classic salty run back in game 2 of the best of 5 to see if execution is the bigger side of the coin. Now, 1, I love this song. 2, Kiana, immediately going to be banned. You don't get to see it yet. That's because it's a surprise. There it is. Spoilers. As well as the Sejuani, so keeping constant on that one. Want to keep Trick off that comfort pick, his most played champion over the course of the entire year. So good to limit his options.
I'm going to make a bit of a prediction.
Okay.
I think Schalke will put more priority on the Skarner. We're going to go a little bit NA on the side of Schalke.
All right.
I don't think it's going to be quite first pick Skarner, like we often do see in North America, but I do think that it's going to be a slightly higher priority. I think a big comfort pick for Trick. I think it gives him level 6 options, and I think overall it just better fits the style of Schalke Null Fear. So that's what my expectations are.
This is my question to you, is how big of a deal is the Nocturne? Because, like, obviously you're excited about it. Obviously it's a fantastic looking performance from the side of Xerxes, but it's hard for me to account how much of the Nocturne looking good is actually the Nocturne pick versus anything else happening in game.
Well, I think Nocturne was definitely a big problem in game 1. It's tough because unfortunately we don't have like a lot of evidence, especially in Europe, of like Nocturne doing into a bunch of other matchups. I think that he is one of the few champions that just wins so many duels at level 6 just because of how much power and raw stats that he has available to him. So I think that it could be a problem, but it's not a champion that you necessarily first pick because there are ways of dealing with it. Especially things like Olaf are a really good pick into things like the Nocturne. So we'll have to wait and see. In any case, Kaiser going to be the lock-in first for Schalke. I think that's to be expected, going very LPL right now with the
that's
high
to be
priority
expected. There's like a lot of other stuff up. There's an Aatrox. This is, to me at least, I was caught off guard. You know, I expect something like the Akali, something like the Sylas, something like the Aatrox. It's seen a lot more priority. Kaiser obviously with the Zayaban picking the litter for 80 carries.
This is it. I think Schalke assume that they're going to get Sylas anyway, because Splyce would rather not play it. So I think the idea was to first pick the Kaiser, because if they first pick the Sylas, then they give away Akali Kaiser once again, which is what Schalke don't want to do.
Oh,
so this was a bit of a test is what I think. So they prioritize the Kaiser, and then they see, okay, they're actually choosing to value the Gangplank. That's fine. Now we know we'll get Sylas regardless.
And it looks like they're going to pair with the Thresh as well. So actually matching the lane that took so much from them in the previous game, in those late game team fights. And interesting now because Splyce can only pick one half of their bottom lane. And it's Tahm Kench duty for North Scarin.
Oh.
That's a feels bad, man.
Yeah.
Normally very proficient on the playmakers, but this is... I mean, if Splyce want to slow the game down and they do have a GP, Tahm Kench...
I mean, I just think this champion has been nerfed so many times. I think if you're going to pick a defensive champion, Braum usually makes more sense for me. I don't think he's super strong in the current meta, but at least I think that he just, is stronger as a champion, and it's something North Scarin is very good at as well. So.
We got, you know, LPL on one side with the Kaiser first pick. We got LCK on the other side with the Tahm Kench lock. And
a high priority on the Gangplank as well.
It's an international sampler. That's all you can ask for. And interestingly here, they've banned away Kabe's Jhin. Now, Kabe Notorious is one of the best, if not the best Jhin players in the league, but he never really gets to show it on stage.
But the moment they saw that Tahm Kench pick, they were thinking, oh, it's Jhin Tahm Kench. It could now be an Ashe. I wonder if they'll actually look to ban it, or they'll ban the Vayne. Something that he did play yesterday. Oh, okay, Varus also makes a lot of sense. A very common duo that we saw paired up with the Tahm Kench. So, two of the best AD carries that commonly go with the Tahm Kench have now been removed from the side of Schalke. So, demonstrating that they are familiar with their opposition, and they're now limiting the bot lane options.
And very concerning for the side of Splyce, because normally Tahm Kench does not really do anything to get you lane pressure. So, when paired with a Varus, something like a Jhin or an Ashe usually can balance that out a little bit. We'll have to see. The Ashe, of course, still up and available as the Olaf will be locked in from Xerxes. Once again, pressure on Xerxes to be the one member of this team that performs, that is aggressive in the early game to maximize this value of the champion. But on the opposite side for Schalke, the Karma will once again be locked in. Most likely you have to feel going to the hands of Odoamne, and I'm going to be honest, the Lee Sin, not the biggest fan. Trick hasn't had the best mechanical split so far, but the Xin has looked great in his hands. The Trundle, though, excellent against both the Tahm Kench and the Olaf.
Okay, so no Skarner lock-in. It does make sense. I don't think you should pick the Skarner against an Olaf, just for the record. But what is quite interesting is we're seeing a very similar pattern from Schalke. A lot of the focus seems to be going around both Upset and Abadage. We expect a lot more ganks to be continuing to happen around the mid lane. I do think that... Oh, that's a Jinx. That's cool.
That's a Jinx.
We'll get to that in a second. I do think that the Trundle acts as a good answer to the Olaf. When we look at Schalke's comp, I think it's another one of those comps that is like, it's a little difficult to execute. You're relying on picks or mispositionings from the side of Splyce in order to actually start fights. Their scaling is pretty solid. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Again, Kai'Sa, Karma, Silas, a very strong trio, very strong fundamental to build around. But I think that, once again, they're going to rely on objectives or mispositions in order to find the fights that they're looking for.
There's just a distinct lack of hard CC in this game, and it makes me concerned, honestly.
I mean, a very similar thing can be said for Splyce.
It's for both teams, really.
Yeah, but one of the things that Splyce have is the gangplank ultimate is actually a really strong way to kick off these fights, and Olaf can just run at you, right? It might not be the most reliable engage tool, but it definitely acts as a way to start fights. And what we saw from Xerxes yesterday was he just built full tank. So he basically just suits up on loads of HP, he runs at the enemy, he draws a lot of attention and focus, and then it allows the rest of his team to come in from the backline. And one of the great things about Jinx is she does have a lot of range, and she should be able to just keep hitting you at arm's length. And she has decent peel because she has the Tahm Kench paired up with her as well. Yeah, slightly weird comps coming out from both sides. I will admit the Jinx, in my opinion, doesn't necessarily fit with what Splyce were kind of working with, but we'll see how it works out for Splyce as we jump into game 2.
Here we go. Very different drafts coming out. Once again, Schalke on the blue side, opposite side, Splyce on the red. Questions to be answered this time around. What can Xerxes do? Can he be the difference maker once again next time on the Olaf? Or can Trick do a little bit more on the Trundle matchup that we used to see? I feel like last year this was the go-to matchup. This year.
So is this what it's like in World of Warcraft when a rogue suddenly attacks you from behind? I've never played, so I don't know.
No, what? Yes, they PowerPoint onto your screen and you click out because you're like, I'm trying to play. No.
Just saying.
I appreciate the effort.
Because that's what it looks like, you know, just like a rogue attacks you out of nowhere.
Norskaren going to be surprised as Ignar just zooms his way in here. If this hook hits, Norskaren might be forced to flash, but won't be. Remember how important early jungle vision was in the previous matchup. Very easy for Splyce to track the Kiana last time, but Odoamne now going to be in trouble. The Olaf, one of the strongest level 1 champions in the game. Odo going to be forced to flash away. Xerxes?
No, it's not worth it. You already got the flash out from Odo, which is good enough. You should take that. Now they'll use this as an opportunity probably to get some deep vision down onto Schalke's side of the map because they already know that 2 wards were spent onto their bot side. Is he going to use any of his wards? No, he's not. All right, fair enough. It does mean that Schalke will have information as to where Xerxes is starting. I wonder if he's going to go for an invade. It looks like he's going to get a very hard leash into an invade on towards the bot side of the map. This will split the map up, allowing Upset and Ignar to have a lot of priority around this bot side of the map. Xerxes is probably going to be forced to just disengage and give this one away. Or he might just come to contest.
This is an adaptation here from Trick. Thought he would go to the blue buff, so did Splyce. That's why that vision is there. They don't know 100% Trick's here. They will now have spotted him out. Trick with red buff, though, could... No, it realistically cannot look to take the fight. Even taking AD from the Olaf on the back of that Chomp is just not enough.
But look at the bot lane. Look at the bot lane. Still level 1 for Upset and Ignar. Norskaren has made the roam up. Ignar's still level 1.
This is exactly what Fnatic did to Schalke, and Schalke are now trying to do it to Splyce. Stepping forward, this might does go down, but Xerxes is going to get it.
They can chase this now, but they're not going to.
And they're going to back off.
Mainly that was because Upset gets the roam up, but... Yeah, that's a huge time investment now for Trick that doesn't pay off. And now Xerxes, he gets to go clear his walls. And he could, if he wanted to, because of how quickly Olaf clears through the jungle, start making his way towards Trick's blue buff as well. And yeah, that definitely did not work out for Trick.
No, not whatsoever. Have to keep our eyes on the Trundle, of course, as we get later into the game. Can be a very powerful champion to set up ganks with, but Now that he's failed to disrupt the Olaf in the early game, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him. And this feels like the second game in a row where Trick not off to a great start. Xerxes maybe can turn this into something more.
Well, I mean, Xerxes should be very easily able to turn this into something more. Notice that he's very far ahead in terms of his jungle clear. So far, Trick has only done 2 camps. The 9 is there because he stole a little raptor, and little wolf, and that's why Zeus is in a same position. Now look, level 3, looking for an invade. Mid has push, top has push. What can Trick do?
Oh, level 3. Trick can try to steal with a smite, but the difference here is that where Trick didn't really have much kill pressure on Xerxes, Xerxes has a lot of kill pressure on Trick if they overextend here.
He's going to get information on where they are. He knows that the Gangplank is going to come down as well. He needs Humanoid to start making his way over. Humanoid is going to do a quick baseball all in bot.
Kabe is going to be in trouble. The flat forward from upset does a lot of damage. The Jinx is going to take a lot back. Did you manage to take him down? The TP now coming in. Northscaring going to try to pitch for the kill. The Lantern is there. Pull him back out to safety. The TP now. The flay backwards is perfect from Ignar. Is going to be able to make it out. But no, Humanoid desperately fishing. Ignar is going to land the hook. Pulls him under the tower, but not the member that he wanted to hit. Humanoid goes invisible. Goes right back out. Northscaring gets out with his life too. A beautiful turn from Splyce.
So Upset and Ignar try to force the all-in, and they successfully get a kill onto the Jinx. But as we were talking about it, Humanoid had just reset. It looked to me like he wanted to TP in and assist his jungler in stealing away the blue buff, but instead he TP's bot. He has to shift his priority, and it pays off because Splyce end up finding 2 kills off the back half.
Really well played in the end. Confident flashes forward. And the Tahm Kench, well, did lose out a little bit in pressure. Those extended fights still very strong even after the nerfs. Cannot afford to just stay in combat with him for too long.
And notice that Kabe is actually very far ahead in the farm. I believe that wave is even slow pushing towards him. So yeah, we can see the wave's actually slow pushing.
Good hook.
Ooh, and a good hook does land in from Ignar. He's still able to close the gap. Just waits for the flay, and then the moment Flash comes through, they're able to find that kill. Beautifully played by Ignar. Kabe can do very little. And then, of course, this is where the TP comes out from Humanoid. And they're just buying time, they're waiting. Notice that the full stacks of the acquired taste is there, and he uses that to jump in, try and set up the stun, along with Humanoid, who's able to find the kill.
And to be fair, it makes sense that you'd want to all in against the Jinx. She has the range advantage in lane, but you have the damage advantage. She can't realistically use traps or the zap very well in a fight like that. But now, Pillar goes down. Humanoid gonna stick around here. Has the Conqueror, so the longer they trade, the better this is going to go. Ignar spotted out as well. And honestly, right now, Splyce quite comfortable in this game state, and it looks like Shalke is struggling because Trick is level 3. Have to hope that level 4 is going to come out here on the back of this Scuttle Crab, otherwise things are going to go from bad to worse. Because Olaf's going back to a respawned jungle, does now get to level 4, so that's good news.
Okie dokie. So let's have a look at the map state right now. Notice that Humanoid has 2 waves up in farm. Mid AD carry has 2 waves up in farm, and a lot of that came down to the setup in the waves. Because Abadage was forced to help his jungler, that's where he lost that farm. Humanoid then TP's bot, and that TP pays off massively in the sense that he gets 2 kills, or he assists with 2 kills rather. Abadage is then forced to TP back to lane. He's still a level down, and that means that he constantly has to concede push to Humanoid. This gives him the freedom to roam. This, because of this, then also gives Xerxes access into the river, and because he's Olaf, he can just start off the Drake. So all of these little plays that have been happening for Splyce, it looks like it's only an 800 gold lead, but Splyce actually gained so much off these small sequence of events that have happened, and now Shalke are looking to fight, but they can't go for this.
As level 6 can't just go right back in. He's going to fish off the score, goes right back in for Trick. Humanoid wants another one. It looks like a double, but they are going to give the kill over to Kabe. Now Upset is running for the hills. The zap will not connect. They need to back off. The tongue lash is there, spits him out, and that's just going to be it. Kabe's going to walk him down. Running one more. The rocket. That's the double. Get excited, folks. Splyce dominating Schalke.
We just talked about this, Dracos. We just said that Splyce is in a fantastic position. Humanoid has his ultimate, he has a level advantage, the bot lane is in a better position, the Gangplank ultimate is available as well, and Shalke still tried to contest the Infernal. Yes, I understand that maybe you want to try and steal away because of how important of a Drake it is, but you can't afford to go for this fight, especially when trying to set up a flank, because Splyce just attacked the weak side of the flank, which is the 3 members coming in through bot side, who, of course, had no summoner spells because they invested everything into trying to kill Kabe in the 2 versus 2.
And Splyce is playing so well, but I feel like Shalke just overstayed their welcome. And we talked about how, hey, the Tahm Kench is a little concerning. Yeah, Tahm Kench has been nerfed repeatedly, but if you're already winning, Tahm Kench definitely helps you win more. Makes it easier to dive, makes it easier to move around the map. And so while I will never advocate for a Tahm Kench pick, Tahm Kench is super OP now. They can go from lane to lane once he gets level 6. Jinx can just start destroying towers. If she gets any further ahead than this, Schalke might not even get a chance to get to the late game.
So, if our observers would be so kind as to flip over to the gold, you'll notice that there is a 1k gold gap between the two mid laners, there is a 300 gold gap between the top laners, and there is a 500 gold gap, 400 rather, between the two ADs. Splyce have, once again, a very strong early game, and we have to reinforce how different this is from yesterday's performance. This team was relying on going to 35-40 minutes before they could end the game, but now they are challenging Schalke in the early game, they are successfully punishing their mistakes, and they're finding advantages as a result.
And I like what we're seeing. This was the evolution from Splyce that we wanted to see. And remember that their playoffs run was cut short by Rogue, so we didn't get to see really anything from them in playoffs. It was a quick sweep for Rogue, and now we finally get to see Splyce come alive here, punishing Schalke left and right for these over-ambitious plays, and it just feels like Splyce starting to feel like a little bit of an inevitable force moving at you, and Schalke trying to do something, but just constantly turning against them.
This is a lot more of the Splyce from the regular season. This is the one that many fans looked at and thought, okay, I'd be fine sending this team to Worlds because they're playing very well, and a lot of it comes off the back of Xerxes' early aggression that normally results in Splyce having the advantage needed to get through the mid game. Now we see more fighting.
Pulling out the Tom Kench can be an easy get out of jail free card. The pillar's there, but it's not going to amount to much. They don't really have any follow-up. And Kabe and Norskaren are unafraid despite the man disadvantage. Humanoid now coming down. The Olaf is coming down as well. You can see why Schalke have started to back off. Dive might come through. Xerxes is very strong right now. He can't just walk under this tower. Ignar has to be careful with the hook. He does manage to connect on the Akali. That's going to be their ticket out of here. They need to get out to safety. Humanoid can go back in. Norskaren is there to save the day if needed, but they're just going to walk in. It's a split fight. Humanoid going to fish for one. Going to look for a second one. Upset now running for his life. Humanoid trying to chase. He's going to get it. It is not even going to cost him his life. Are you kidding me? Double kill. Going down for Humanoid, and this is a stomp.
And it is 3-0 in favor of Splyce. They pull off another dive, and it is off the back of a great roam from Humanoid. Abadage now trying to answer on the top side of the map. Let's see what Chachi can do.
Honestly, it's do or die here. If he's not able to get something back, this is going to be disastrous for the team. Now fishing, the abscond is not going to work. The abduct will not connect, because Chachi will go down in the end. Oh, taken out. Schalke going to get back, but it's just nothing. It's just not enough to balance this out. Exactly. It's 10 minutes, and that Kabe's gotten all of those plates. This Jinx is going to go back and get her first item, maybe even part of the second item. Azil. Oh, Vedius, this is... Oh, yeah. Thank you, observers. That's a lot of money.
And now Odo Omne could be dead.
Oh, but Humanoid may have overstayed. Lockup is there. Humanoid getting chipped out. Goes back. Now can come through. Trick can just start to chase him down. Well, cooldown he's running for his Trick.
Yeah, he's going to get out.
That's
close stuff there. And you know, Dracos, we were fools. Because we doubted Norskaren's Tom Kench.
We did.
This man is playing unbelievably right now. Now, obviously, we're looking at the Akali right now.
Look at the Tom Kench. Look at the moves. Look at the plays. Norskaren, what was that?
He's doing what he can to provide peel. Obviously, in this play, it was all about the Akali, how he was able to zone away. Humanoid having a great performance. But I just want to bring attention to what Norskaren has been doing in this laning phase. The protection that he's been providing for Kabe, the setups that he's providing for his team. I think that he's doing a great job, and I was skeptical of the Tom Kench pit because I felt like that it would concede a lot of lane, but it's Norskaren combined with Humanoid. The fact that Humanoid is utilizing great teleports, finding fantastic roams. He executed what was a flawless dive coming out from Splyce. Like, these two really seem to be stepping up in a much-needed performance as Worlds is on the line for both these teams.
I mean, it is, and this is exactly what we wanted to see. A 6K gold lead now for Splyce, 12 minutes. This is massive. And now the question is, how quickly can they close out? They have tools to do so. Abadage, if he commits to this, is going to be very sagged. There's a catfish right from the brush that isn't even needed. Goes right back in. Humanoid's going to grab the kill. Leaps forward on the Trick. Now trying to fish for a little bit more. This Lantern's there. Not going to take it. TP now burned mid lane. Splyce happy to have that one because Jinx is just taking towers. Tower plates are still up. Jinx has gotten at least 8 plates at this point in the game.
The laugh spam coming out from Humanoid. Splyce is starting to feel it now. 6,000 gold is the lead that they currently possess. 2K difference between the two mid laners. And now you've got to start asking that question. Should they have maybe first picked the Akali? Should maybe they have put a little bit more priority on that champion, given his performance on it? He had his very solid game 1. He's now really feeling the confidence of game 2. Gunblade completed 12 minutes into the game. He was already killing everyone. Now he has a sword that can also shoot things.
This is...
It's crazy. He is so strong right now.
It's also a blade. That's a 2-for-1, folks. And it's hard because
man, are they doing the 15 plates? They go okay. Schalke trying to answer.
Plates. Vizicachi, if he kills someone here, it's so bad for this team. But it looks like Vizicachi will be taken out. They're finally able to grab a pick. He's chasing for it. One more shot. One shot, one kill. 360 no scope. No, will not happen. Vizicachi cannot find the kill. The parlay will not connect.
Oh, the body block of the rocket coming out from Ignar. So Schalke get 1 kill back. But what does it cost them? Everything. Draco's all 15 plates have gone down. We have to look at the gold once again for Kobe because he is sitting with a 3.5k gold advantage over his lane counterpart. This Jinx is online at 13 minutes into the game.
Schalke first picked this Kai'Sa, Vedius. They got their priority bot lane, and then they immediately got dunked. Yes, they had that beautiful engage on the bottom side, but the TP counted against them, and when push came to shove, Splyce outplayed them, and if you've ever played against a Jinx in solo queue, you know what happens the second she has a lead. You don't get to play anymore. She takes your towers, she kills you, or in this case, Akali kills you, and she continues to take your towers.
This is the big brain play from Splyce. If you snowball an early game lead hard enough, you can get to the late game sooner.
It's a 14-minute late game.
It's a 14-minute late game. What can you do?
That's a 2-item Jinx. They have a mountain.
It's Super Saiyan Splyce right now, Daniel Dracos.
We're going too fast. Slow it down.
Slow it down.
We have narratives to think of, Splyce. You can't do this.
We have to tell the Vizicachi story again. Wait, this is a great moment.
Yeah,
Bring that up.
Wait. Kevin, you're listening back there? Cue the Vizicachi story. Vizicachi, longtime player, yet to go to Worlds. And what's happening? He is like the captain of this ship, quite literally, as he is Captain Gangplank in this game. And he's surviving as his team just dominates around him. He's contributing those Gangplank ults. It's great. I think Kevin missed the call. Normally I don't address him publicly.
But the thing is that he's a player that doesn't get resources, and his whole role and responsibility is to survive. And his Gangplank ultimates have been there to assist the likes of Humanoid and the bot lane of Splyce, who have been coming up clutch. Notice 5-0-3 for Humanoid, been involved in 8 of the 9 kills so far. Same for Northgaren, been involved in every single kill so far. Vizicachi often the point of attack because it's the only window of opportunity the Schalke can find as Splyce looking to extend their lead.
Big damage now coming in. GP, the TP on the backside. This is the last chance for Schalke. If they do not win this fight, I think the game is actually just over. Schalke might even be dead. They don't even know what upset. Now steps forward. A lot of damage on the doggy on the backside. Takes the GP. All can go and can look to get this fight kicked off. Vizicachi, unstoppable. Actually takes the ult.
Humanoids.
Odoamne now running. Eyes on the Akali. If they get too low, they're all just going to instantly die to this Akali ultimate. Kave now retreating. Kave now on a rampage. Big damage coming in. There's Humanoid. Shuriken flip. Did it connect? Does not look like it. They're going to be able to walk out with their lives on this one, but Splyce not getting anything in the meantime, and just dominance once again.
So Humanoid did have an opportunity there to just keep pushing down mid, maybe even take a mid tower, but he recognized how dangerous this team fight was, so decided to roam down. Schalke not able to convert into anything as Splyce's AD carry finds a big crit in the middle of the fight. Ends up finding a kill, both teams then choose to disengage.
And before this game, 7,402 was Splyce's largest gold lead at 15 in the split. I think they hit about 9K this game. So definitively the most dominant early game performance we've seen against Splyce. And this isn't against a struggling bottom team. This is against Schalke. This is a team that went to Athens, and they're just destroying them.
Again, this is the Schalke. Wow, this is the Splyce, rather, that we saw during the regular season, the one that finished 3rd during the regular season, the one that was looking to challenge the likes of G2 and Fnatic, and the one that many fans were excited about. So when they got 3-0'd by Rogue, it was to the surprise of many, but now we're surprised by Schalke, because this team feels like they're starting to crumble. You think about the pressure, you know, we want to talk about storylines, like how many times has Upset come close to coming to Worlds and has failed to do so? Expectations from fans is this guy's a world-class AD carry. This is a guy that should be representing Europe on the international stage, yet here he is again in another gauntlet match where he is on the brink of being taken away from Worlds.
Yeah, and for Odoamne, the desire to get back, Trick, this will be the first time that he's played in Europe that he hasn't gone to Worlds or really any international tournament. Remember, his history up until this year was flawless. Ignore a similar story since his time with Misfits, so a lot of eyes on Schalke, kind of expecting more, but Splyce on the opposite side, I mean, similar stories. Once again, we already talked about Vizicachi, a guy who feels like has been denied so consistently, and while this is not his all-star carry performance, his team working around him, the Gangplank ults have been where they need to be, so This might be the time that he gets to get back, that Kabe gets to get back to Worlds, and the rest of the team gets there for the first time.
So now we see Vizicachi just doing what he can to draw a lot of pressure towards the bot lane. I think Splyce's next best bet would actually be to look to play through top. I think that's a much easier tower to siege, especially given how many members are trying to help secure this bot tower. But I think Splyce feel the Humanoid can very comfortably win this 1v1. So they want to try and leverage numbers in order to secure this tier 2 in the bot lane. Unfortunately, Shalke are matching them with numbers, and Humanoid can't really approach the tower. As you can see, he's getting just pushed away from it, and while he is winning out on trades, he's not quite getting that down.
Vizicachi now the leap in, a lot of damage going on to the GP. The TP has now been used. The Shalke have overstayed their welcome. This will start to turn against them. The TP now canceled. We look for the side of Abadage. Is going to buy more time, but it might just cost him his life as he goes in. It does. Abadage stops the TP. He spent his life to do so. Can Shalke now win the fight instead? Pillar coming back for Trick shortly. Needs it as soon as he can. Is going to get it. Kabe might just look to turn. Another AoE rockets aren't going to come out to play. It's exactly what they need. They might turn up, but the damage is too much. He's going to get no! Only one kill, but still a hero performance from Kabe. Almost turns the entire fight. Cannot get Triumph healing fast enough. May have taken over heal instead, and he's going to shake his head at that one.
Very nearly is able to turn that fight around in a 2 versus 3. I honestly feel like Splyce should have just committed to the fight a little bit earlier. I feel that given how strong this Jinx is, they would have been able to just run Shalke down, but they just wanted to buy time, allow Humanoid to pressure the tower in the top lane, but they don't convert it into anything. So Splyce, even though they have this massive gold lead, at the end of the day, they lose a fight, and Shalke keep their towers alive.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, as we look back at the play, you can see this felt like the fight that Shalke could have lost the game on. Once again, bottom lane tier 2 tower. But the important note here, Abadage canceling this TP is everything. Costs him his life in the end, but probably stops what would be a guaranteed team fight win for Splyce. And as you said, maybe should have turned a bit sooner here.
But it's one of those situations where Splyce also could have just pushed down mid. They could have traded. The fact that so many members of Schalke were invested into bot, Splyce were like, okay, well, we'll take the fight because we're so much stronger. And then because the Kali never arrives, they can't get a successful fight. Look at these big crits. This is why I was sitting there thinking, okay, maybe they just turned sooner. Maybe they could have started winning, but they didn't feel that confidence. They didn't want to try and take the play. They tried to disengage. But again, like, Splyce need to be thinking of what can they be trading, because remember that for Schalke, the more fights and skirmishes they can find like this is how they actually claw their way back into the game. Splyce need to be trading these last-ditch efforts from Schalke into some form of objective. And now the Baron is up and alive. So this will likely force Schalke into that situation that Splyce are looking for.
It's 2 Mountain Drakes and a Jinx with 3 items. This should fall very, very quickly. Humanoid kind of being the wall to stop the team from getting through. Trick burning his pillar a little bit early, and that means Splyce just get that one instantly. It is an Olaf and a Jinx. Very good duo to just destroy that this early in the game with double mount. Time to see what Splyce can do. Can they just close this game out cleanly and take us to a game 3, or does Schalke have the potential, have the items, the gold, to actually win a fight here?
I like that Xerxes is hanging around this top laner, allowing Humanoid to push in that wave. Gonna help clear out the vision as well. Kabe and Noscaran gonna wait for the next wave most likely. See 4 members investing up towards top, see if they can find anything on the Xerxes. They will not. And the waves are not in a position right now for Splyce to actually trade this for any neutral objective, or any objective that they're looking for anyway. Why are they answering it?
They're going to start chipping away at the Baron buff. Cannon Minion's still there, only getting lower and lower. Kabe's ult is going to get body blocked by Abadage, and Vizicachi's on the bottom side in the meantime, so not able to break the base open, but slowly but surely taking down the last of these tier 2s.
So my only problem with what Splyce is doing right now is every time Schalke tries to do something, Splyce is matching, which I don't think they should be doing. They have the Baron buff, they have a huge gold lead, they should just be taking advantage of the fact that 4 people of Schalke went top, and they should be running down mid. They should be sieging onto those towers, because what's more important is just breaking into the base rather than trying to go for a fight.
I feel like I agree, Betty, but you know, you always have to take into account the pressure, the emotional factor. Yes, Splyce know they're insanely far ahead. It's 11k gold lead. Is Humanoid now looking for the retreat? But a single mistake and it could turn. Stolen Apollo might be enough. Humanoid going to cut through. Abadage now dashing out. Upset on the hunt. Humanoid no shroud. GBL comes in, but honestly fired a little bit short there. Vizicachi, though, continues in on the bottom side. We'll be able to break this tier 2. The Jinx is on the bottom side as well. They're just going to shred through that tower. Now they're going to fish to get into the base. Schalke need to commit. They either need to force
keep pushing bot. This is exactly what they want to be doing. See, Schalke now have to divide their resources. They burnt everything to try and find a fight bot. Now Schalke, Splyce have successfully broken into the base.
And this is kind of the disaster for the side of Schalke, as they just don't really have enough reliable hard CC to force a fight or to pick off an individual member. We talked about it earlier, but this is where it really counts against them. They cannot force a fight reliably on their terms at this stage of the game, so Splyce just get to walk in, not really scared of any of the potential cooldowns outside of that pillar. Now that that's gone, free inhibitor, easy pickup for Splyce, and Xerxes just burying in these Baron creeps on the top side of the map, forcing someone to respond.
Yeah, nice. Much better from Splyce. They're finally able to break into the base. Now they only have to play through 2 lanes. And as a wave is stacking up in mid, and they have a minute left on the Baron, they can start setting up for this one. TP going to come through.
Going back. The Jinx, the pillar, not ultimately that effective. Stolen GP ult can dissuade them from pushing further. Very low cannon creep, but Jinx with a lot of range on that rapid fire cannon can poke pretty easily. 42 seconds left on the Baron. I think that they might get all 3 towers. Kabi stepping forward, that's going to be at least one more. Shalke trying to hold on to something, need to find a fight. Ignore maybe with the perfect hook can get a fight kicked off, but Northscairn is there to say no. This top 10 really dissuading any potential playmaking. Managed to pillar, Northscairn just gobbles him up, buys time. Humanoid now coming in. If they overcommit under the Jinx, they haven't killed the Jinx. This is going to be a disaster with Olaf rampaging through the back line. Humanoid stepping forward, Kabe untouched for now, trying desperately to get the reset. If he kills Trick, this fight will turn in an instant, but it's too late already. Kabe gets one, Splyce just going to play cleanup. Odoamne has to run for the hills. Zachachi looks for a little bit of revenge here. Another inhibitor is going to fall. There's creeps in the base, and it's just going to be the game. Absolute dominance from Splyce here in Game 2. Schalke did not even get a chance.
Splyce with a fantastic performance in the early game, and so much praise has to go to Humanoid. Some fantastic teleport usage. Great roams coming out from him. And honestly, just an overall great performance on the Akali. Splyce now lead the series 2-0. They're 1 game away from securing a spot at Worlds, taking Vizicachi to his first ever World Championship. And Schalke now in a position that they were in last year.
And Vedius, we have another game on our hands where Schalke kick a playoff and Splyce outplay and punish. Last game, it was going bot lane against this Nocturne GP combo. This game, it was forcing the engage with the Thresh Kai'Sa, the theoretically superior 2v2, but where's Abadage? Where's that TP? Where does that go? Instead, it's Humanoid showing up bot lane, getting all those kills, and we know what happens once you start an Akali snowballing, once you start a Jinx snowballing. You just saw it happen on your screen.
So, one of the most fascinating things about this game is this whole game got decided by the level 2 play on the blue buff. And the reason why that's important is because by Trick trying to find that invade and failing, it then gave Xerxes the opportunity to create an invade on the enemy blue buff, which then dragged Abadage out from his lane in to try and assist. And because he gets dragged out, he starts to fall behind. Humanoid then gets an early base, and because of that early base, he's in a position to TP to bot with items to make that play happen. And that's where the snowball starts. And these cascading events, all off the back of a poor early game play, is what allowed Splyce to have their fastest game of the entire split.
22:45, shortest game. I think this one was a little tiny bit over. So second fastest game of the entire split. But overall, Vedius, I think this has to feel so bad for Schalke. On the one hand, Splyce on match point. Fantastic for them. They looked monstrous in Game 1 and Game 2, outside of a few fumbles. This, however, if I'm Schalke right now, I'm getting flashbacks. Because that level 2 play is how Fnatic blew them out of the water 2 games in a row. Now, only 1 win is standing between Splyce and a spot at Worlds 2019 as they look to close things out in Game 3. You do not want to miss it. Humanoid goes invisible.
Look at me, look at me. Yep. Did I hit someone? Nice one.
Woo! Let's go, boys! Humanoid 74, Kabe untouched for now, trying desperately to get the reset. If he kills Trick, this fight will turn in an instant, but it's too late already. Kabe gets one. Splyce just going to play cleanup. Odoamne has to run for the hills.
You don't have a chance against me. I can calculate 90 trillion moves in advance. Not fair. Not fair.
Red Bull gives you wings.
represent EU on the biggest stage, rather, of them all. 0-2. Schalke 04 has been shocked, has been stunned, because it is Splyce that is up 2-0 and on the brink of qualifying for Worlds. And it's been 3 years for Splyce since their first Worlds appearance. And now Kabi and crew are just 1 win away. I have to say, after yesterday's performance, what is going on here, Frosk?
Well, for me, it looks like Xerxes had his Wheaties and he showed up to play. He looks like a completely different animal. I love even taking something hyper-aggressive like the Trundle and the Olaf matchup and getting in Trick's face and contesting those types of buffs. Yesterday, it wasn't the case for Xerxes. He felt like he was definitely playing on the back foot, that he kind of faded into the background, but his Nocturne game, his Olaf games look clean today.
I'll go further and say it seems like it's different for everyone on the Rift for Splyce. They all seem to have woken up and are playing completely differently to get back to Worlds.
It's crazy sometimes in a team environment. Sometimes you just miss one piece, and all of a sudden, all those things that you're doing good start to show up. Because even though we can highlight Xerxes in his early game plays, all of a sudden we see Splyce diving the bottom lane. They're doing plays together. Humanoid is actually interacting, and Splyce is doing actual things, and instead of just waiting for the late game.
I actually really love that he brings up the dive. And I know this is kind of like an off-tangent topic, but Tom Kench. We got to see a Tom Kench today from North Garen, and in the LPL, when they pick Tom Kench, they actually pick it to dive because he's so good at absorbing the tower aggro. And to see Splyce take what they thought was going to be a hyper-defensive bot lane in that Jinx Tom Kench and then actually attack with it and pull off a dive with the Roan from Humanoid, I'm like, yes, Splyce, everyone is online. Humanoid's popping off, Xerxes looking great, and even Norsgaren and Kabe have completely stabilized and neutralized Upset Nignar.
Great point about everyone stepping up, indeed, and I want to talk about Humanoid first and foremost. In his first year in the LEC, this guy might make Worlds, and I have to say for me specifically, I think Humanoid has had some fantastic moments, but hasn't always convinced me. But he is stepping up when it matters the most.
I think so far this series has highlighted why Akali was banned so many of the games yesterday, because he was on that Corki all day yesterday, didn't play anything that explosive, but Humanoid got that lead with that TP, saw his opportunity, and ever since that point, you saw the confidence growing in him, and all of a sudden he's just engaging first, diving the towers, and continuing to extend his lead. This is my favorite play right here. Oof.
It was so cleanly done from Humanoid as well. I mean, you look anywhere and everyone's doing exactly what their job was, but the fact that Humanoid immediately turns around, goes back in, and is able to clean up this fight on the backside, just to echo that sentiment, Akali. The draft priority needs to be on this champion right now. I think Schalke have had a misread on kind of what their effective champions are. They reached for the Kiana in game number 1. I don't think they're putting enough priority on Akali, especially when Abba can also play this champion to such a high degree. And it works so well against these teams' play styles. Again, usually with Schalke, if you play front to back, you get your tank line in front of you, you just let Upset walk through people, they're fine. But when you're facing an Akali who can cause so much chaos, get into that back line and disrupt everything, suddenly Schalke are really falling apart before they even get to their team fighting phase.
Yeah, even before they get to the mid game, and this is where, Yamato, you've been talking about Xerxes so much and the fact that he was a shadow of what he can be yesterday in that first best of 5. Today, a different story.
For sure. The first game on the Nocturne, loved the pick. Ilias put it in a very nice way that he just farmed till 6 and started to have action. I think it's much more than that because, you know, otherwise everyone would just pick Nocturne. Nocturne was a fantastic pick into the can, and all of a sudden we see that creativity. Okay, we have another replay of the Nocturne coming in for the counter gank, and that's perfect because Splyce managed to stabilize the bot lane. Xerxes was activated, and these are the things that we're looking for in the Splyce that we recognize from the regular season.
It's complementing the brain power of Xerxes that we always love to talk about. The fact that he is such a creative pathing jungler, that it's right place, right time, that he knows how to read weak side, strong side of the map, and anticipate what the enemy is going to do. And with a champion like Nocturne, with such a long-range ultimate, you then get to see Xerxes pathing kind of his mind games really shine as he's able to dissect and download his opponent and then show up at the perfect time for the counter gank.
And then to connect this to our pre-series expectations, we talked so much even yesterday about the marksmen and the bot lanes in general, and not only that they play in an isolated way, but that they get the help from the rest of the team. Xerxes has been putting a lot of attention in that bottom lane. And Kabi and Norskeren have said, thank you very much, we're going to run with it, and that's paying off for Splyce.
And it's so important, again, because you know that Schalke are going to try to attack you through the 2v2. That's where a lot of the action really starts from in that bot side river. So Kabe and Norskeren could not collapse in this bot lane, otherwise the rest of the map would follow very soon after. So again, emphasis on the fact that not only are they neutralizing Upset and Ignar, they're beating them. And they are getting a lot of help from Xerxes and Humanoid making those roams. So it's not like Upset and Ignar are just getting blown out of the water. But some of these champion matchups, you know, taking the Leona into Thresh, I start to question some of the compositions that are being put together in that 2v2.
I think Splyce have just done wonderful preparation. The first matchup that we saw was Tristana, Leona into Kaiser Thresh. Picking Leona, you can't really do much against the Thresh unless you get level 6. We saw that timer, but Nocturne's already 6, Gangplank ulted. Second game, we had Jinx Tam versus Thresh. Once again, a matchup that kind of relies on jungle interaction, but Trick has been getting destroyed.
It has, and with that, the rest of his team, and Upset is one of those people we were looking at. The best AD carry to never make Worlds from Europe. Is he going to do it now? The boys in blue have chosen blue side going into this possible final game. They'll have to complete a reverse sweep. Tell me, for Schalke, who has been trying to get to Worlds since the inception of their organization, now again on the brink of being knocked out of the gauntlet, what can they do to turn it around?
It means that someone other than Upset needs to step up. Upset hasn't been able to play his game because the games are ending before he is a factor for them. Schalke have had a couple of good punches, but none of them are really landing. So I need other members to step up. Trick and Abba in particular, they need to match the pressure that Xerxes and Humanoid are outputting on this map if you even want to see Upset get to shine in that mid game.
I think it starts with the draft because, as you highlighted, Trick, I don't think the Trundle pick worked out. I don't think the Kiana pick worked out. We need to see him back on those tanks that can set up those ganks in the bottom lane. On top of that, I want to see Upset and Ignar in a matchup where they kind of set themselves up, because I think Splyce had very good preparation with the Tamkin. It was a pick that no one really expected. It was like the cast was like, what is this champion? We don't want to see it. Doesn't really promote aggression, but instead it kind of did. So I think if they come into this game, first pick Akali, maybe a Sejuani in there, drop the Karma because it hasn't been working, maybe a Rumble Cannon that has some kind of engage potential, and all of a sudden you have those mid-game fights that Schalke shine in, because that's what I want to see.
Rumble, Jarvan, Akali. Go.
Go there with your first pick is what Fraskurin is saying for Schalke 04. Backs against the wall, do or die for Schalke, and Splyce 1 game away from Worlds. Let's see what happens.
Of course, pressure on for both of these lineups. Splyce just need to close it out cleanly. Can't afford to stumble here. Victory right in front of them. They just have to win this one. But for the side of Schalke, a devastating series so far. You heard, honestly, just tons of reasons why things were going on from Schalke. But the bottom line is something has to change here. Once again, blue side coming in for Schalke 04. Can they get something done in this pick and ban phase?
Excellent question. Let's find out. As we jump into Game 3 draft between Schalke and Splyce, as you heard on the analyst desk, Schalke remain on the side of blue. Yuumi will be the very first ban. They're going to continue to take that one away. Do they ban away the Kiana? Given that they clearly do not want to prioritize it, yep, that's going to continue to be taken off the boards.
If they go Gragas here, I will be very sad. I think ban the Akali or take the Akali. Those are your options.
There it is.
There you go. Okay, so something's changed. Question is, what's the follow-up? I personally think they should take consider taking GP or getting GP out of there, because Vizichachi and Ottawamne, neither one of them are really doing anything in these games. The difference is the GP gets to do nothing and ult a different lane.
That's true. Yep, but then of course they concede the Kai'Sa, which they probably don't want to do either. A lot of picks available. Sylas. The thing is, I think they don't have to worry about Sylas too much. Clearly it's a pick that Splyce don't heavily prioritize. With the Akali gone, maybe it's just something that Humanoid grabs for himself in the mid lane.
Interesting now, though. They've banned the Rakan rather than the Xayah, saying, hey, if you want to respect the Kai'Sa, we'll just take the Xayah. We're happy to trade 1-for-1 here. Maybe making Schalke feel a bit more comfortable to pick something else. Obviously, a lot of potential options up and available, but you're playing directly into Splyce's hands. They deliberately left that champion open, so have to hope that Schalke knew this one was coming and can plan around it accordingly.
So, Kai'Sa plus Sylas is what you would typically expect, given how the meta and how the series has played out. However, Splyce usually don't put a huge amount of priority on the Sylas pick, so we'll see if they do decide to go for it, but I think it would be a valuable pick for them.
And interesting, too, because we've seen a lot of different AD carries over the course of this series. Kai'Sa appears to be the constant outside of the Tristanas and the Jinxes.
Oh,
the
of course, we
Gragas.
completely forgot about the Gragas. Yes, yes, yes. That makes the most sense, because when you replace the Akali, you're going to grab the Gragas.
You don't just get more bans.
Yeah, yeah. I like this pick. Of course, Schalke going to respond with the Sylas themselves. I think that it's a good answer. We are seeing the hover of the Lee Sin.
Come on.
Is Trick going to go for it?
It's difficult. You can see that they've been hesitating this entire series on whether or not they want to grab it. I have to wonder what the right choice is going to be. This is, in my opinion,
a lot of
very
hovers
early
right
Yasuo.
now. Schalke want to keep their draft open, available by locking in the Olaf.
Oh, died. I'm going to be honest, Vedius, there's a lot to be said analytically. I know Olaf is very strong, but Trick on Olaf does not lead to wins for Schalke. He performs very well individually, but he needs CC, and he does not have it.
Well, expectations now fall on finding an early game advantage, and it feels like Splyce are getting everything that they want. Gangplank going to be secured in the top lane as well. I think Olaf can be a fine matchup into the Gragas, but of course the Gragas is going to scale better later on into the game. Gragas also has very strong burst damage early on, so I feel like Splyce aren't too worried about this. They just have to be very careful about the early levels and see if Schalke try to set anything up at level 1, level 2, level 3.
And I want to call back to something that we saw at the start of the day before this match even kicked off as we enter the second ban phase. Kai'Sa, Gragas, GP. All three on Yamato's dream comps for both sides. Splyce have 3 of the 5 for the dream comp. So Schalke, new picks, have to show us something more, because what you expected to be powerful in this series is all on the side of Splyce at this moment.
So Splyce, remember that they do get first pick of support. They may choose to ban away the Thresh here and then go for the Nautilus themselves if they want to. Oh, the Blitzcrank ban I also respect. Ignar, known for his mainly known for his Blitzcrank, but also known for his Leona, which he showcased in Game 1. But Splyce did a great job of dealing with that. Does suggest that Splyce may very well just go for the Thresh priority. Both Nautilus and Thresh are up and available. It depends which one Splyce would prefer to get for themselves. A little bit more tankiness, a little bit more crowd control overall in the team fights, or maybe a little bit more peel as well, given that you do have both the Thresh ultimate and the Lantern to take someone to safety should they need.
And we've seen pretty solid performances from Northscaron on both of those champions. I personally prefer the Nautilus with the Kai'Sa, a lot of kill power on the bottom side, but taking away the ability for Xayah to take a Lantern out in a high-pressure situation does do a lot. It will be the Nautilus in the end, and Schalke now have to finish their composition. Obviously, the Sylas already committed to the mid lane, or at least we can expect. Would not be surprised to see a Kennen. Pressure's on. Give Odoamne a playmaker he's played in the past. If we see the Karma, honestly, I'll be a little sad. I know it's very powerful with the Olaf, but just has not had an impact yet.
He could also just do something like an Aatrox. You know, try and play through top lane. It's not a style that Schalke typically take advantage of, but I think that they should try and get a matchup that can generate a lot more pressure. Gnar, I don't think is necessarily that. I understand why you would go for the Gnar, very similar to Karma. You do have a range advantage. You can set up for dives, and he offers value in later game team fights. But yeah, this once again suggests to me that Schalke are not looking to play around the top side of the map, much more focused on playing around bot. Wow, and we're going to see the Camille locked in. You would imagine this must be Camille in the mid lane. Definitely was not expecting that.
And this is honestly something we haven't seen. The Akali's been available for so long. We've just been seeing Sylas Akali over and over again this playoff series, but now with the Akali banned.
I mean, even Corki is something that you would kind of expect to come out from Splyce. Do you know what I mean? Like, Corki, Gangplank, Kai'Sa is like a Splyce draft. Yeah, but they're going for Camille.
Well, and it's not like they had any reason to put, to hold anything back yesterday. They went full 5 games.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if they just are incredibly brave and didn't pull this out yesterday, didn't think it would work against Noob Duck, or if this is something new and Humanoid is just a confidence pick, but definitely going to have to see. Not paired with Sejuani, which is what we normally see.
That's the best thing about it, Dracos. The last time we saw a Camille was when we saw the Camille mid with Sejuani jungle, and that duo makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm not familiar with how Camille matches up against a Sylas, and I'm really interested to see how this plays out, but clearly, Humanoid is confident in the matchup, and that's ultimately all that matters. He feels that you can win in the 1 versus 1. You definitely will outscale in the side lane.
And right now, we're on match point for Splyce. They can afford to take risks like this. If it works in the early game, they snowball, they win, they get to Worlds, that's easy. If they lose a game, yes, they lose momentum. It is an important thing in series, but it is okay for them to take some risks like this. On the other side, Shalke, this is their last chance. If this draft does not work out, everything ends here for this team. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone out there. Splyce 2-0 up, match point. A win here will send them to Worlds. Tomorrow they will face Fnatic to find out who will be Europe's 2nd seed, who will be Europe's 3rd seed. But for Schalke, this is it. They do not win. They go home. They wait till next year. We see what roster they end up with. So many things can change in the offseason. This might be the last time you see these 5 players play together.
Okay, so we're seeing the trick ward once again. We saw this in game 1. Gives information as to where Xerxes is starting. A very common Gragas path is red buff or Raptors into then red buff Krugs into basically just doing a full topside clear. You can then go for an early base to grab the Predator boots, or you can continue by doing a full clear. By dropping the ward in the top lane, what it allows Trick to do is gain information on what Xerxes is doing. You can, of course, adapt your path. You can start with the red and then path towards doing a full bot side clear. It very much depends on where you want to draw your focus early on into the game. But Splyce, they responded well by putting that ward in the tri-brush, so they know that Shalke know. So now it's about whether or not they want to give that information away, as neither bot laner looks to give a pull for their jungler, so they want to try and get that push, get that early level 2 as quickly as possible.
And we're in a situation where I feel like all eyes have to be on Trick. Definitely the Olaf pretty much expected to win most jungle matchups. The theoretical mid to late game impact much higher on the side of the Gragas. Obviously can gank aggressively a lot, but you're just not going to win these duels versus the Olaf. So I feel like this is Trick's time. You either get to pop off and win a game for your team, or you do nothing, and your season just ends.
Yep. So we get to see a bit of the mid lane matchup. One of the cool things for Camille in the mid lane is she has these 4 walls that she can utilize her Eon to have easy setup on the stun. Often when we saw Camille in the past, and sometimes just when we see Camille in lane, she does like to run Comet if she wants to go for a little bit more of a harass matchup, but because she's playing into a melee matchup, she can afford to run the grass because, of course, you can get those auto attack trades in. But still prioritizing the W investment early, so you still have that poke, extra bit of wave clear, and we can see that early priority is in fact going in favor of Humanoid, and he's actually winning out on a lot of these trades. Oh, let's also not forget that you do get that passive shield every now and then, which will also help you match up against Abadage, who he won't gain the same value from his E-shield that Humanoid will.
And long trades, of course, on the side of Abadage might be favorable for him, but it's very easy for Humanoid to get in and get out. And just do the hook shot wall dive right into the midst of your face. And very difficult actually for Abadage to respond is Abscond Abduct, if you want to combine both together, has quite a long cast time. Probably not enough time to interrupt the wall dive. Abadage definitely not working out in these trades. 2 stacks to 1 on the Corrupting Potion. Important to keep track of those.
The wave is in a really good spot right now, but Abadage hanging around the top side of the wave makes it a little difficult for Xerxes. He's going to have to invest his flash if he wants to make this play happen. Abadage getting very close to the wall.
Do not walk any further down. Walk topside, topside. All right, he's going to be okay. Level 4 coming out as well is going to start to walk down too. Has a bit of vision, or rather, Splyce have a bit of vision, so they know exactly where he is. But the ward being placed will reveal Gragas. Abadage will now know that he needs to stay on the top side of the lane, but in the meantime, the Lantern, it's going to pull him back. Trick now in the midst of the entire team. This is exactly the fight that they wanted to start off. Norscairn walking away. He's not going to be able to get it. A beautiful flash forward from Trick to body block the hook and secure first blood for Schalke.
So, really great play from the bot side of the map coming out from Schalke. We expected Trick to try and make plays around the mid or bot lane, and he starts by going bot. Ignar flashes in to set up the hook onto Norscairn. The very big body of Nautilus can't really do much to avoid it. And it ends up resulting in first blood, so Schalke already off to a good start.
And the first time it really feels like Schalke have been ahead in terms of an early game. It is a small lead, but one that we have to keep our eyes on. And you can see very classic Thresh play, the Flash, Flay plus Lantern. It feels just like a season, 3, season 4 Mata classic.
And you can see the flash in front of Norscairn here coming out from Trick as well to deny the ability of Norscairn landing that hook and potentially getting to safety.
And
invested.
Also smashing topside as well, so one thing starts to go well for Schalke, but not just one, a lot of things across the map is starting to build some CS advantage. No TP burn by either side, and Abadage very comfortable against Humanoid, so Camille pick looked okay early on, but now not winning out in a lot of these trades, and for the first time this entire series, things look pretty good for the side of Schalke.
Zachachi getting very low. His base being interrupted. He wants to reset right now. So yeah, Splyce at a slight deficit. Unfortunately for Xerxes, he wasn't able to make his first gank work out in the mid lane. I imagine he'll continue to look for ganks in the mid lane. It does feel like that there is a decent amount of gank setup with the Camille, especially once she gets her ultimate available as well. But we'll keep track. So far, the mid lane going heavily in favor of Humanoid. He's built up a pretty sizable CS advantage. That early harassment that he was putting down very clearly working out in his favor. Both he and Amadagi will hold on to their teleport, so should a fight break out anywhere, they'll be able to very quickly join.
Well, some of the trades at the back end of this laning phase, or at least level 4, level 5, are starting to go in the favor of Amadagi, but CS, as you mentioned, very much in favor of Humanoid. Now that he goes back, picks up double longswords, maybe things continue to go in his favor. Good bit of damage down. Adaptive defense is not going to amount to much. The stun connects. Now an axe goes in. Hookshot wall dive out to safety. A bit of damage, but the slow will go down. Good escape from Humanoid, but very close to death there.
So you can also see how easy it is for the champion to escape any ganks. Even though Silas was able to land everything, it still wasn't quite enough. Didn't use his ultimate to lock the Camille down. Still going to be fine now. Xerxes has spotted out Amadagi.
They can try to go for a play here. Channeling Predator goes over the wall, wants to get something. Gone, abduct, and use the Grag Assault to get himself right out of that play, but forcing the ult early, going to make sure the Humanoid has a laning advantage at least. Meanwhile, the bottom side, Nautilus is dead. Trick is now coming up. Going to have to get a replay on that one. Action across the map. Schalke attacking multiple points at this moment.
And so, we were a little bit worried seeing Schalke lock in the Olaf. Could he find an early game advantage for his team? He hadn't been able to do it so far this series. Xerxes really did have his number, but here in game 3, when the chips really are down, Schalke is now coming up clutch, and Trick finds another successful gank in the bot side of the map.
And this is the kind of Trick Ignar synergy we were hoping for, playing very well together. We can see, I think, another Lantern. No.
So the hook just misses. Of course, Norscaran has no flash, so he gets run down. He has nothing that he can really hook jump to either with his Q. So he just has to concede his life, and Trick literally just ran it.
And that's all it takes, honestly. Feels like in the past we've seen a bit more respect paid to the Olaf, but Splyce potentially over-eager there. Maybe didn't have perfect information on exactly where Trick is, but you can see 1-0-1 now this close to the Schalke jungler. As you mentioned, finally having one of those solid performances we were waiting for. Still, a bit of an advantage for Schalke on the top side of the map, a bit of a disadvantage for them in the mid, as Humanoid still pretty far ahead in terms of overall CS. Level 7 now, maybe get something done here.
Teleport was used from Upset. Probably used his TP just a little bit earlier, building up a decent lead in the bot side of the map. BF plus Scorpion's Warhammer now completed for Upset, put him in a very solid position. Trick also hitting level 6, while Xerxes still only level 5. And I'm surprised the Schalke didn't take the Drake earlier on. I felt like there were many opportunities for them to do so. But I wonder if they're going to start things off now.
It's interesting, too, because Schalke normally are a team that goes for these objectives very consistently when they have an edge, and there it is.
It's still fine. This is still fine. You know, they have the bot push now. They have the prio in mid as well. So a very easy take, especially with Xerxes on the top side. Is he looking for a gank? Oh, it looks like he is actually going to try and make something happen onto Odo here.
Only going to get a single bounce. It's going to be a body slam. Goes in, gets it easy. Flashes right into the GP. I'll have to wonder if that one's worth it, but a quick pickup beside a Splyce.
So Odo Omnate, I'm going to struggle a little bit as Gangplank is only going to get stronger and stronger as the game progresses, but that'll be fine as long as Schalke can continue to play through their bot lane. You can see Upset, for the first time in this series, has a pretty sizable gold lead over his lane counterpart. Picking up 2 plates in the bot lane and a couple of kills means that he is now the primary position.
Humanoid now going to be in trouble. He's going to use his own ult to push Trick back, and then hookshot wall dive out. Well played, but it does not matter. Olaf just runs right at your face. One more axe, not enough. Good escape by Humanoid. Forced to burn everything in the trade.
Patient play once again from Humanoids. Good utilization of his ultimate.
Amadagi, don't do it. Has to get out. I've seen Amadagi die too many times to tier 1 mid lane tower, Vedius. It's my greatest fear, and it's in a clutch moment that he's just going to go in. But we'll hold off, we'll back off. Humanoid, though, despite receiving a lot of attention, still playing with a lot of confidence. Seeker's arm guard on the side of Silas means he won't take quite as much damage, but it also means he has a lot less kill threat onto a champion like the Camille.
So Shalke have a slight early game gold advantage. I'm sure that they would love a larger one, but they haven't really been able to convert it into that much more aside from a couple of plates bot. The 2v2 still doing fairly well between Kobe and Norscarian. Even though Norscarian has been dying, you can see that he's been farming exceptionally well. Ignat now has the boots of mobility, looking for a roam. He is just going to get spotted out in the mid lane, though, as the Herald is going to be started up by Trick. Awadage going to come to assist with that. But this also immediately guarantees priority bot lane. Now, this is the very conventional trade that we often see, where you can see the bot side of the map, but you've already secured some plates. Now, you know they're not going to take it as quickly as you will be able to take top. So now the immediate response should be to actually throw the Rift Herald top lane or even mid lane. But they're choosing not to do that, so they're just going to give some plates over for free for now.
And of course, Trick finally going to back. It had been a while. Now able to finish the Warrior, grab a Ruby Crystal for himself as well. And has the Herald too. So overall, feels like a worthwhile trade inside of Shalke. The flash forward from Norscarian, though, getting things kicked off. That was a bit ambitious. Yeah. Feels like you got the calls versus like, we're ready to go. Norscarian says, I hear you, we're going. You know, Leroy Jenkins moment. The team is not ready, but you go for it anyway.
Yeah. We can see, I'm sure there was some kind of communication there, or there was...
the Predator was popped.
Yeah.
You know.
So I'm not just going to blame Norscarian. I'm sure there was some element of setup, and his team wasn't in a position to follow. But yeah. Burns his flash, doesn't really convert it into much. Unfortunate there for Norscarian. Now Trick back in the bot lane. Oh, wow, he's actually going to use it bot.
This is... You know, we talk about bot focus, but they're just honestly just giving it to us at this point. Are going to be able to move in here. Look to take down a few plates. Not going to go solo gold over to Upset.
Just like an ult away?
Waiting. Okay, so you can see Upset stepping forward there into the GP to make sure that he gets the gold. Looks like there's actually the only beneficiary of that local gold. So 360 in his pocket on the back of that Herald play earlier. I think it was traded for 2 plates to Kabe, though, so overall pretty net neutral, but he had already grabbed a few plates earlier, and you can see the difference in the gold now, about 300 in the lead.
Yeah, I mean, Splyce have slowly been closing the gold gap. Remember that Schalke had about a 1k gold lead, and now it's only down to about 300, 400. And for Schalke, when you're drafting this Olaf, it's quite important that you just keep the momentum going. Now, that's not to say that they're just going to fall off hard into the late game, right? They still have scaling options available to them. Zaya's going to be a strong carry, but
Olaf won't be.
No, and this is the thing. I always think of Gragas as someone that's always going to offer more value later on into the game. And you mentioned it in the draft, Rakos, which is very much about Kai'Sa, Gangplank, Gragas. An almost ideal trio for Splyce to get. And they got it in the first rotation of the draft as well. So they know they have scaling on their side. They know they have a Kai'Sa that in the late game is going to be a monster. And Kobe, honestly, has had a great series overall. And I would imagine that a Camille is going to continue to scale up and will be a massive either side lane threat and maybe you outscale Sylas in a team fight. I'm yet to know. We'll find out later on to the game, but I can be pretty confident in the 1v1. He's already had the Sylas' number during the laning phase, so you can imagine that's only going to get better as time progresses, and now they set up the dive.
Goes in, Sal's going to try to make his way out here. He's not going to get a chance to steal an ultimate. Trick goes in, walks forward, but the tank from the tower comes in. Hookshot his way out, little Spider-Man for Norscarian. Oh, Wamne now on the chase. Norscarian most likely set to fall here. Axe is picked up. No, goes golden.
He's gonna.
I think he's still dead. All right, they're gonna take him down in the end. He's hoping for a heroic cookout to safety, but meanwhile, we take a look at the top side of the map, and Kabe is taking plates, but Shalke still trying to up the tempo of this game, trying to fish for a little bit more as plates start to fall. But a good barrel from the Gragas will stop that push in its tracks.
So while it was a 1-for-1 overall, Schalke secured bot tower, giving them first tower blood. They do lose a couple plates top, but they also get some more in mid, and they'll convert it into a mana drink. So I feel like the net gain is heavily in favor of Schalke, and they might even be looking... they're not going to hard commit to that one. But yeah, I think Schalke is the main benefactor of that series of events.
The mountain will go down as well, so Schalke starting to build up advantages. Less than 1k gold overall, but still making their mark on the map, holding on to a lead for now. For high pressure for Schalke. It is do or die for them. Splyce have the luxury of making 1 or 2 mistakes, something that they earned for themselves winning those first 2 games, but want to close out here, want to close out cleanly as they move on to, potentially could move on, rather, to face Fnatic tomorrow.
I'll be honest, Dracos. We had 2 thrilling games. And I was revitalized. You know, I could feel the Splyce energy. It felt like that they really came online in this series, and now the game is slow down a little bit more. Again, you know, we talked about it in the draft. It's like the Splyce perfect draft, so I'm not really sure what I was expecting.
It's 4 out of 5, to be fair. We have budget Akali in the mid lane, otherwise we're 5 for 5.
But I mean, I'm not saying that this is the wrong style of play. I'm not trying to flame Splyce. It's just, you know, we had a lot of exciting games. Now very different. Oh, here we go. Ignar.
Ignar thought he, no. Ignar gonna have to flash out to safety there. He definitely thought he was ganking, but was definitely the one being ganked. And that means the Lord will go down. Trick is here as well. A fight might break out. That was a bit eager on the Chilling Smite, but will force Humanoid away. So both sides a little bit keen to skirmish, but neither one wants to do the full-on 3v3. And Trick's still very much strong at this point in the game. It's not really a phrase, very much strong, but...
So as a reminder to everyone, dive. 3 versus 2, TPs up for pretty much everyone. Nope, they're not going to go for it. But reminder for everyone, Wolves is on the line. Hook lands, here we go.
Together over the walls, or say forced out. Quick flash.
All right, good flash burnt there. This is just giving more map pressure in favor of Schalke. They're going to have the push in the mid lane because no one is there to answer right now. They're forced to catch bot wave. The gangplank's starting to scale up. Here we are.
Wait, they didn't push in for that ward because they didn't have information on where everyone is. They are going to push in for that one.
They're going for top. They want top. Kobe forced to answer. The gangplank has to move to mid to answer that one as well. So Schalke, they have way more map control right now. But some items starting to come through. The Trinity Force now finished for the gangplank. That's a pretty good spike. Trinity Force quite a way off for Humanoid. Have a quick look at how much gold he's sitting. So he can complete his second component. Should be able to pick up the Sheen relatively soon. But once he gets that Trinity Force, that's it, man. That's when the fights start. That's when I'm ready. Abadage, he wants to wait for those items too. So we're chilling. I mean, just a lot of back and forth now. A lot of map movements. Again, we can see the Silas roaming up. Just want to put some pressure down onto the tower.
So taking tower, Abadage can walk in and steal Camille ult if he wants to. Ultimate forced out reserves, they're just trying to clear the wave. They're going to deny the dive. The GP just allowing them to slow this game down on the side of Splyce. Maybe expected to see them play a little bit faster, but of course, now that they're behind, can just stall out so much with the GP ultimate.
Well, remember that much more responsibility falls on the side of Trick in order to try and snowball Schalke's lead. And 17 minutes in, they do have a lead, and they're utilizing pressure quite well right now. But as you said, Splyce doing everything they can to slow the game down as much as possible. This will be another outer tower going in favor of Schalke, so they do extend the gold lead just a little bit more, but you have to constantly be thinking about these item spikes. You can see Kobe, 2 items now done. He's going to be looking to stack up that Mura Mana, or Mana Mune rather. I always get the two confused. He's about halfway done right now, so still a way off. So Splyce very happy keeping the game in this kind of state, where it's just slow, easy, chill, maybe read a book, have a cup of tea.
Dennis, I'm so sad because...
Don't be sad, my friend.
We said after game 1. This is why I'm
sad. Don't be sad.
I don't mind.
It's Splyce. How could, they can't qualify towards without playing the Splyce Classic.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a Splyce. They gotta get one in.
They gotta get one.
They're like, hey guys, we can play fast, but shout out to all the Splyce fans out there. This one's for you.
This one's for you.
Well, I prepped a lot of Nocturne facts to try to engage you, but they haven't picked him again.
I have so many great Nocturne facts.
Game 4.
Like, for example, did you know that he is in fact the living embodiment of a nightmare? He is not in fact a shadow.
Do you know what his occupation is, as listed on the wall?
Did you say occupation?
His occupation.
Probably
his professional occupation.
Scary stabby guy?
Demon of Nightmares, but Scary Stabby Man is quite close.
Demon of Nightmares. Wait, but he is a nightmare, so how can he be the demon of the nightmares?
No, he's a demon made of nightmare. I don't know. I read a bunch of, like, in the break, I read like 3 different Nocturne short stories, not all of which are by Riot, so I don't really know what's real information anymore. We're on the Nocturne fanfic website. Got a little weird. We don't talk about it. Some people weren't into it. I don't know. What do you want from me, audience? I'm just saying.
Oh, dive. Here we go.
Moment of truth. The Gangplank ultimate, stolen away. Abadage leaps forward. Still not exactly coming out on top in this trade, but that's a stolen GP. They're trading. It's ult for ult.
Look, Schalke's coming. They're coming for the collapse from mid lane.
Odoamne takes a huge amount of
good hook.
The play now comes in. Trick on the backside is exactly where they want to be. Xerxes desperately trying to disengage. He's going to get one. He's going to try to make it out. It will not happen. Schalke cleaning it up in the 2-for-1.
So it was Splyce who were trying to set up the dive in the top lane, but Schalke, they had push in mid, and after taking down that mid tower, were very quickly able to get the collapse down onto Splyce. So they find a successful kill, and this was very important for them, continuing to maintain control of the map, trying to escalate this goal lead even further is very much needed for them. You can see Upset now completing his second item, working on the BF sword as well. Very, very important team fight win for Schalke. So here we can see the dive, no minion wave. Good clear out from Abadage. He goes to the 1v1 onto Vizicachi, and the TP comes in from the Gnar. Meanwhile, on the minimap, notice how 3 members are starting to rotate up from the side of Schalke. This is where the great hook comes in from Ignar. They have the vision trinket there to spot them out, and he's able to get this hook into the double flay, into the box, forcing Vizicachi to flash out and allowing the chase to come down. Now, Xerxes, of course, is able to get 1 kill back at the very least, but Schalke, they get mid-tower, they find a kill, and all it costs them is a very low health tier 1 in the bot lane. So great play overall from Schalke.
And if you've been watching Schalke this season, this is pretty much exactly what you want to see. Ignar, Trick together being the catalyst for playmaking. Abadage being a strong individual contributor, upset Odoamne doing something similar. A stolen ulti is going in the flash. Northgaren, though, trying to lock him up. Kabe now on the retreat. Big snare comes through. Northgaren now knocked down. Actual ult is just a visual bug. Will not connect on Kabe. Looks like it died with the Nautilus. Now, Ignar stepping forward, clearing out these barrels. And Schalke snowballing a lead. 2K. Studio audience very much in their favor. Studio audience, kind of hate that word. And Schalke going to grab a second Mountain Drake. We are very much on the precipice of a game 4 here. Schalke will not be denied.
Feels like Schalke starting to wake up right now. They just grouped up mid, ran it down, caught Splyce out of position. It was very easy to find a collapse. Another kill goes down onto Northgaren. As we can have a look back, notice here, Splyce trying to get some river control to set up for the Drake. Northgaren then walks forward to provide peel for Abadage. Of course, has to invest his flash and ultimate, which means that Schalke is able to find that pick. So good punish there coming out from Schalke. They converted into the Mana Drake, as you were saying, Dracos.
Odoamne has to be careful though. Bridgewater can't just run him down. Mountain Drake as well, though, has to go for the fight now. If he goes Mega, he's just instantly going to die. Now trying to finish him off. Bounce, comes through, 1 more bullet, shoot him! No, denied! Killing spree comes through, Odoamne barely on the edge. Now the fight kicks off, that's going to be the ultimate coming out from Humanoid. Trying desperately to get something done. Xerxes looking for the disengage. Trick now taking down Kabe, going forward. Uses the ult, but the timing is just slightly off. It means that Abadage is going to be able to make it out on the back of that Lantern. If you'd waited half a second to go in on Abadage, might have been able to get the kill.
Wow, ends up being a 2 for 3 in favor of Splyce there, even though they were at a numbers disadvantage. Vizicachi buying a lot of time for his team to join the fray and turn the fight into Splyce's favor. Let's have a look back at this one. So Vizicachi, he's just overextended here. Notice that the top lane is setting up a play to siege onto that tier 1 tower, but they have no vision control, allowing this flank to come in from the Olaf. Then everyone starts TPing into the action. The Camille actually buys so much time as well, and does so much damage on the backline. And then, as you said, Kabe, the ring of the ultimate allows you to go to a number of places. He takes the more defensive route by going slightly further away and closer to the Gragas, but then that means that the Lantern from Ignar is able to pull Abadage to safety. Could have been another kill for Kabe. Doesn't quite find it, but Splyce coming back in this one.
But it's important now to remember the jungle difference that we heard earlier, because Wall Trick has been incredibly impactful, 3-1 and 3. We saw how much space Xerxes was able to buy for Kabe in that fight. He's level 13, he's got 3 items, he's working towards the fully stacked Manamune, and the Kai'Sa only gets scarier. Olaf building Randuin's, that's really not going to help against the AP damage that this Kai'Sa is going to be putting out.
This Camille is strong, and I'm surprised that Splyce is playing so heavily around the Camille. I feel like they should invest more time in just leaving her to 1v1, because she should be very strong in those situations. I think that there are very few champions on the side of Schalke that can really outduel her at this point in the game. Maybe they want to wait for a second item to come through for her. Maybe the Sterix Gauge for a little bit more defensibility. Maybe go for the Ravenous Hydra as well if you want more lifesteal. But there should be open access to the tower. Ooh, bit of indecision, doesn't want to go for it. Okay, fair enough. I think you recognize that there are a bunch of Schalke members in the river and the rest of his team weren't available to assist, so... Oh, Abadage just missing that one.
It always feels bad. Last half a second, not able to stop the back. We do see the retreat here. Looks like it will be the Vamp Scepter, so the Ravenous Hydra. And if you're a fan of split push builds, you know that this pretty much distinctly means that it will be the 1-3-1 from the side of Splyce. Titanic generally considered much better in team fights for the extra survivability that gives you, because lifesteal, well, yeah, I mean, you either die or you live in team fights. So the lifesteal usually just doesn't come into account on a melee champion. And honestly, Vedius, the Schalke, in the face of all this, in the face of a 2-0, have managed to stay pretty stone cold. The confidence in Trick to play this Olaf after so many times that it has backfired previously is good to see, and finally good to see it pay off for this team. The Nautilus ult is now stolen, and that's going to make any future team fights that much harder for the set of Splyce.
A lot of vision being set up around the Baron. Schalke do have a strong enough front line where they could tank this one out if in the event that they need to. But again, Splyce playing the conservative route. I like that they're... One of the biggest criticisms I had for Splyce yesterday was that they kept trying to take fights when they were scaling, and they didn't need to because it allowed the enemy team to find the skirmishes that they wanted to get ahead early. This time around, they're avoiding those, which means that they're just buying time and waiting. Once that Mana Munate is fully stacked into the Muramana, that's when Splyce can really be confident enough to go for the fight. Maybe they want to wait for the Ravenous Hydra on Humanoid, but they're fine in this situation. The goal gap is only 1k, so a lot more responsibility falls on Shalke to find those big fights, force those plays, and convert into an opportunity to make the reverse sweep a reality.
And it is now fully stacked and transformed, so Kabe looking quite strong. Normally on 80 Kai'Sa, you'd say that 2 items Kai'Sa is stronger, 3 items most crit 80 carries are stronger, and at 4 Kai'Sa is stronger again. That was the old adage, but the build has honestly changed so much that I'm not sure. But one thing is certain, this Kai'Sa
strong.
She is very strong now, and can just shred through any of the tankier members. Odoamne, Trick, really anyone who's going to build any kind of health at all.
Tanky members.
Obliterated.
Kai'Sa. She's an assassin. Haven't you seen the new TFT patch notes? Ranger Assassin.
Ranger Assassin Void. Nor's scared,
there
though.
comes TP.
Trouble caught out. TP now coming in. Odoamne with the Mega Gnar. He sees his hero moment. He leaps right back out to safety, though. Shalke now collapsing. Humanoid can just pick a single member off. Mini Gnar is here. Trick has to be careful. The ultimate comes out. Trick can't actually rock out of this one. Or can he be pulled out? No. Huge damage now comes in. Buys a bit more time. The kill has gone down in the favor of Shalke. No fear. Trick now running for his life. Will get taken out by the side of Kabe. Splyce have first access to the pit. Nonetheless, tankier members as well. They could try to start this one up. It's a big risk. Odoamne taking a huge chunk of life as well. Will Splyce pull the trigger here?
Well, I agree with you, Dracos. I think that it is very risky to go for the Baron right now, but Trick is dead. The smite is gone. Schalke are forced to reset and disengage. Ignat's back in base. They start this one off. They want to try and bait Schalke into the fight. Oh, they've looked...
Fishing for Abadage.
No, he's going to...
No, he's coming.
All right, so just a bit of a bait and switch. Teasing us, Dracos. Giving us a taster of what's to come.
But the gold, now very much even. And Gnar, as we get later in the game, does okay on a side lane with 2 items, but outside of that dream Mega Gnar scenario, isn't always going to be the most reliable champion in a team fight.
That was a good answer from Schalke there. I like that they just ran down mid after recognizing that there were a bunch of Spike members top. So here we see the engage from Humanoid. He tries to lock down Trick for his team to follow up. And that Gangplank ultimate was huge as well because it got so much damage down onto the duo bot lane of Schalke. But of course, the positioning of Schalke meant that they could very easily turn and throw all their damage down onto the Camille that dived in. Very squishy, of course. Which ends up being a 1-for-1. And then Splyce overstayed, cost them that tier 2 in the mid lane, and now we kind of reset back out to the map.
There's a bit of a disadvantage of the Ravenous Hydra as opposed to sitting on the Tiamat, maybe going for something like the Sterix, as it's pretty easy to just pop that champion in a full-on team fight. And Upset continuing to get stronger and stronger. 3.5 items now, 4 for the side of Kabe, however. The luxury of this AP build is there's just a lot of really good defensive items in terms of things that provide AP, both the Hourglass as well as potential Banshees. It does feel like it's necessary. A lot of AD, though, on the enemy team.
Ocean Drake is up. Splyce have control over it, but if they start it, there's the risk of Schalke immediately going to the Baron, so they don't want to for now. Both teams starting to group up in the mid lane. A fight to be brewing.
R, matey. A fight to be brewing.
So did you hear Medic's pirate joke yesterday?
Yeah, the favorite letter R, yeah.
Yeah, but it turns out that their favorite letter is actually C.
Okay, missed. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. That was wonderful, wonderful things. Abadage almost level 16, so Silas is going to be more terrifying as these fights kick off. I remain unconvinced by the Gnar. There's been a lot of Gnar GP.
Oh, he's even going for the split push build as well.
In the history of League of Legends, Vizichachi and Odoamne kind of came up in the Gnar GP meta. So interesting to see them play it now, like 4 years later. And Vedius.
A lot is on the line, remember. This is the potentially final game for Splyce. If they win this, they qualify for Worlds. They do have to play Fnatic tomorrow to determine seeding. If they can find a big upset against the likes of Fnatic, they go in as the second seed, means they don't have to go through plans.
And I believe the Gigabyte Marines qualified for play-ins early today. But, Hook, no. Which is always scary, because if anyone is going to ruin EU's chances of making it out of play-ins.
And let's not forget,
it's someone from
Fnatic's first game against the Gigabyte Marines, World 2017, with Levi's Nocturne. Level 6 at like 4 minutes.
Absolutely terrifying to watch, but now Odoamne has to run for the hill. Huge damage from Humanoid, but he is still so very squishy. Upset, tearing through his health bar just as quickly as he tore through Odoamne's.
The feathers tear Kobe apart. Kobe, Humanoid, rather. He's forced to reset. He did lose his flash. Odoamne, nerves of steel, holds the line, doesn't worry about anything. We're getting into the late game, Dino Dracos. The gold is dead even. Tension is at its highest.
True, and double mountains for Schalke means that every option as we move later is a bit more accessible to them, whether it is the Ocean, which after that will be the Elder Drake spawn.
Yeah, so I think it's actually better for Splyce if they don't take it. Just leave it up for as long as possible. I think Baron's going to be the main objective. I'm curious as to what breakpoint Splyce is now waiting for to try and force a fight. Maybe they want to go like full late game, maybe, because I feel like a lot of their components are done now. You can see Humanoid looks like he's working towards the Starix now, so maybe they want that first. All right, Shalke though going to start the Baron. Here we go. Splyce has to respond.
Trinket has now come down. GP ult used, but they might just be able to take it. They're going to be able to take it. Splyce, do they fall out for the fight? If they get the reset, Camille's on the side. Vizutachi does so much damage. Odoamne, they're all backing out now. The cask does manage to connect. Kavik moving in on the side. Ignore has been taken down. They're hunting for more. The TP coming in. Not sure why this is the moment that Camille throws the TP in. Vizutachi now caught up. Azurte goes in. Upset's going to be in trouble. The ultimate comes out. Tries to flash backwards. The feathers are going to beat up. Kave has taken him out. The Baron may have gone down in the favor of Schalke, but Splyce are cleaning up the fight. Odoamne, the only member to keep that buff. The immediate TP down on the bottom side. Upset wants to speed this game up. Kave, rather. They might just look to get a little bit more here. Odoamne will be the lone holdout.
Only Odoamne is alive to hold the line against 5 members of Splyce. The Gangplank is TPing down as well. 3 members of Splyce in the mid lane. And Splyce, there's only a few towers left.
Hook connects. Cutting through. 24-second death time. Remember, it's on the line. A Splyce win here, they go to Worlds. Vizutachi, 339 games. He has never been to Worlds, but he can do it right here. All it will take is a win, fight win. Odoamne, though, the rage is stacking. It's a big Nori, knocks him into the tower, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Akabe still keeping his eyes set on the tower. Splyce moving in for a little bit more. 3rd in the regular season. Can they make it? 3 seconds on Upset, but the game might just end here. Upset will not be enough. Splyce should just end if they still have the creeps. Upset, a hero play. It would take literally everything he has left. The Nexus falling lower and lower, and with an instant, Splyce do it. Splyce qualify for Worlds.
The elation on the faces of Splyce as their hard work finally pays off. 3-0 against the likes of Schalke. And they will qualify for the 2019 League of Legends World Championship.
Norskaren and Xerxes. Humanoid as well, their first time on the big stage. But most importantly, Vizutachi, after all of his years in the LEC, the EU LCS, has finally made it to the international stage. And Kave, once again, the franchise player from Splyce, will return to the world stage. Have to see what he can do this time around with this new lineup. In a pretty dominant 3-0 in the favor of Splyce.
Commiserations to Schalke once again. This was the situation they found themselves in last year, and they were unable to do it. Upset, a player that many have looked at as being one of the best ADs in Europe, will not be able to represent them on home soil at the World Championship this year. Big devastation for them, but only elation for the side of Splyce. So much work has gone into this team, so much growth. So many young players have shown so much development. And Yamato, his former teammate in Kobe, and will be making their way back to Worlds.
Honestly, it's incredible. And I cannot imagine how good it feels for the young blood, the newer players, for a man like Kabe, and especially for Vizutachi. We'll hear from him soon, but it's an incredible moment for Splyce. And obviously the gauntlet is not yet done. The battle for seeding is important. We talk about qualifying for Worlds, how great that must feel, but
coming in as second seed guarantees you a spot in the regular group stage, gives you a shot to make it into the brackets. And I think that's the thing that all teams look at. It's not about making it out of plans. It's about making it to the best of fives. That is something that any European can be proud of. But obviously, you're sitting at home. It's time. Key player of the game. Series, rather. LOL Esports on Twitter. So all 3 games, who do you think stood out? Vizicachi, Xerxes, Kabi. I'm going to say Xerxes.
I'm kind of looking at Kabe right now. I feel like he was super solid. Obviously, many fans are going to be like, well, where's Humanoid? Now, Humanoid, to be fair, he had one great Akali game, but you probably don't even remember what champion he played in game 1. So I'm not saying he did nothing this series. I think he had a great series overall. But in the Camille, we didn't really get to see much from it, to be honest. We saw it do a couple cool things. It definitely outscaled in a side lane, but
It never really got to go to a side lane. We never got to see it go to a side lane. Like, because for a while, I believe Gnar into Camille was something that people would pick, and it would eventually outscale 2-3 items.
Yeah, but again, I'm not trying to take anything away from Humanoids, but I do think that in terms of the overall series, I think that we really felt Kabe's presence pretty much in every single game. So he was one of the standout players.
Absolutely. And the thing that you have to remember is that while it's easy to be excited for Splyce right now, they are facing a Titanic opponent in Fnatic tomorrow. So looking at those little things that can be improved is still an important part of the process, even if today feels like a day to celebrate for Splyce.
So we're going to have a look back at the final fight that ultimately decided the game between Shalke and Splyce, brought to you by Alienware. So as we can see, Shalke rushed the Baron down, and in this situation, you're thinking, okay, Shalke just need to get out and, run back to their base, reset. Now they can take control over the map, but Splyce do not give them that opportunity. Kabe finds that first pick, and Schalke starts to divide. They start to get separated, and this is where Splyce take advantage of. Upset gets too close to the wall. A great flash body slam coming out from Xerxes, gets the damage down to allow Kabe to follow up and secure the kill. With the GA coming through on the Olaf, they're able to melt him out as well. And now, it's just me. Of course, an interview is being set up on stage right now with Dracos and the wonderful man in Vizicachi. We'll get to hear from them in a second, but what a fantastic series between the two teams. You don't need to hear from me anymore. Let's send it over to the man that will finally go to Worlds. It's Vizicachi.
Thank you very much, Fedius. It's my pleasure to be joined by Vizicachi. Complete dominance, 3-0, qualifying for Worlds. What did it take for you to get to this moment?
We came into this series thinking even if it takes like 6 hours or something, but we win it, then it's worth it anyways, and we get to go to Worlds, and that's all that matters. I've been fighting for this for 5 years straight, and this is finally the moment I got it, so it's really, really nice.
I said it earlier on the broadcast, but 339 games. What a road. You've been so close so many times. You've been on second or third best teams in the LEC for as long as you've been here, and you're finally there now. Are you even thinking about tomorrow? Are you even worried about Fnatic, or is it just all eyes on Worlds at this point for you?
Actually, I wasn't thinking about tomorrow yet, but now that you mention it, we still have a best of 5 to go. So, yeah, we will have to focus on tomorrow's game, obviously, and that decides a lot if we go to play-ins or group stage. And I think we will have good chances tomorrow.
And as much as I want to just continue celebrating this fantastic moment that is you making it to Worlds, I do have to ask, what changed for you guys today? What was different? Because yesterday it was 5 long, grueling games, and today, outside of Game 3, you just blew them out of the water.
Yeah, I think the only thing that we were lacking is confidence, especially after the series against Rogue, where we got demolished 3-0. And we kind of regained it yesterday because we saw that we can compete with these teams and we can beat them. And coming into today's series, we were just full confidence, knowing that this is our series to take.
Now, looking back at the regular season, you were the team contesting G2, contesting Fnatic. In second place for a large part of the season. You have to play Fnatic again tomorrow. Does that feel like a close match to you? I think it's safe from an outside perspective to call you the underdogs, but how do you feel about it?
I feel like last time we faced them, it was our game to lose. And I think we won against them once as well during the Summer Split. And Fnatic is always the one that beats us in best of 5, so we really want to take revenge on them this time.
All right, well, I hope for your sake you get that revenge, get that second seed. A lot on the line tomorrow, but congrats again to you on making World Vizicachi a huge moment as we send it over to PGL.
Welcome everyone to the LEC post-game lobby. I'm Shox, joined by Frost, Yamato, Cannon, and Gilius. Whoa, so much emotion. I mean, obviously happy for Chachi and for Splyce. Chachi, who's been fighting for so long, and I thought, is it just never going to happen? Is the man cursed, Frask? So super happy to see him get that.
Yeah, not just Chachi, but his brother in arms there in Xerxes. They have been so close for so long, very long careers. Finally get to make their berth there. Then you have Humanoid, his first time going to a big international stage, as well as Norskeren. So there's like a lot of question marks. It's, yes, you know, you see Splyce fans that they finally get to celebrate that these names that have been around for so long get to have their moment. Kabe returning for a second time, but now also looking at the newcomers of the support and the mid lane matchup and seeing if Splyce can keep them together on such a massive international stage. I don't think Norskeren or Humanoid have even played in an arena because they didn't make it to Athens.
Depending on what leagues they played in before or what tournaments they played.
like
maybe they were massive, you know. But so I was going to say at the beginning of this day, we thought a Splyce who played like they played yesterday does not deserve to go to Worlds. Yamato, do they deserve it now after what you've seen?
We saw a much better display, for sure. I was saying yesterday, if you win the gauntlet, then you get to go to Worlds, you deserve it.
Simple.
Today, they met a much tougher opponent than Shalke. We had a high expectation of Shalke, but Splyce delivered on many fronts. They started doing things in the early game. Xerxes started playing the game. Mid-game started looking more crisp. They're actually active in the game. And I think activity is a good measurement for the teams that we have in the teams in this league. And I think the more activity you have that is positive, the better it is. I loved what Splyce showcased today.
How'd the resident jungle expert find the matchup?
Yeah, I think the drafts were much more crisp today from Splyce. And Xerxes really stepped up. Like, he really outperformed Trick today, like, no question about it. Champion decision, like what he picks, like blind picks or counter picks, and just pathing as well. So, yeah, Xerxes is definitely the MVP today, and Splyce is looking really strong.
Yeah, indeed. You talk about, you know, right things to pick, and I know that Yamato, before this day, you had the dream comp for Splyce. Seems to me that they got their hands on a lot of those things a bit too often, really only challenged in this last game, and they still won.
I think the big thing was Vizichachi on GP.
Yes.
Like, he was soaking up pressure. They were trying to gank him. They were trying to do things. They couldn't really find the right counter to it, and he got to play it for 3 games. That's a lot of Gangplank ultimates. That's a lot of pirate ships. That's something that maybe they should have looked at, maybe coming into the World Championship, maybe even tomorrow. He's not going to be allowed to play it. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, and I think it's like, how can you leave GP open 3 times? Like, there must be a click somewhere to pick it away or to ban it. And I feel like Odo is a GP player too, no?
Well,
I mean, I think everyone in their heart is a GP player.
I'm sure Odo can play it too, so surprising drafts today as well.
Yeah, the fact that champions like Aatrox fall all the way through, no one even looks twice at them, and that was kind of really, yeah, exactly. That was the undoing of Splyce when they entered playoffs, when they ran into Rogue, and it was they gave away Aatrox, priority pick every single time, and not that Finn beat Chachi in lane or anything like that, because I think Chachi was winning the lanes, but was just having a higher impact on one of these picks, and I agree, kind of the celebration and like the good night dreams is right now as you see that moment, you're so happy for Splyce. But the rude awakening tomorrow when they face Fnatic is, if you take GP, you will absolutely get punished. And you shouldn't get GP, and Aatrox is going to rise up much higher.
Let's not go too fast
I don't think they give a damn. They're at Worlds.
Yeah, they're at Worlds, that's true. But I mean, you know, you never know which group you're going to end up in. So hopefully maybe you are going to fight for that second seed. I'm sure they are. I just wanted to kind of button it up. Sorry to interrupt you, Frost.
Oh, you're fine.
In terms of all the happiness we saw here and all the absolute elation from the side of Splyce. And we were looking over to the Schalke side, upset, in tears, immediately. Of course, I mean, but what happened? How did they not step up to the occasion at all today, Gilius?
It's a BO5 is very different from a BO1. It's like it has a lot to do with emotions as well, and how you handle a win or handle a loss. You can win a game and get overconfident and then instantly lose the next one. You can lose a game, get humbled, and then win the next one. So it's about experience, and I mean, Upset is still very young. I think the guy will be the best AD carry Europe has ever had eventually. Just needs some time, and yeah, today he couldn't do it.
I think a big thing as well with Schalke was that everyone kind of expected them to win. The hype was there. Everyone talked about them as if they are the clear favorite of this gauntlet because OG was such a kind of question mark. And I think that also puts an unnecessary pressure on you when you come from an underdog position. Maybe that was Splyce's plan all along. You know, they're like, we have internet issues, we don't have internet, and then they come in as an underdog, they sweep in through the carpet.
They said they love the underdog position, though, and we've also theorized that they do really well in the underdog position, but not well.
That's why they played like that yesterday.
Well, yes, exactly. It was all planned.
But in the same breath, or if you go back to the regular split, Splyce were contesting to take away the Athens spot with Fnatic. So, there's two ways, because I agree with you. You look at the series yesterday, Origin versus Splyce. The only winner yesterday was really Shalke. We're like, oh, this will be easy
And they tweeted it too.
Exactly. But here's the thing. You get the warm-up time for Splyce, which they always talk about confidence. That's the word that we're going to say every single time when Splyce are on stage. You hear it in the interviews. Chachi just said it. We just didn't have confidence. We had confidence today. And it's always going to be the thing. So Splyce having that extra BO5, I think, is actually massive here. And then B, Splyce have shown consistently that they were the better team over the regular split. So while I do agree with you that the perception felt like Schalke were the heavy favorites because of recency bias of what we saw Splyce versus Origin, which is kind of what you're working with, we knew that the ceiling from Splyce was much higher. And thank goodness they actually got to show it today and punch their ticket to Worlds.
The big problem for Splyce tomorrow is you just went to a 5-game series with OG. You have shown your cards. I would know how to draft against them, personally. Today, 3-0, you showed how you win. You also showed yesterday how you lose. So I'm expecting a very clear 3-0 tomorrow.
The only thing I would say against that is, I don't disagree with you, but in the regular season, when they went toe-to-toe with Fnatic as well, all the cards were on the table as well, and they went toe-to-toe straight up, right, with good picks for both sides. So I think what the gist of it here is that they have a high ceiling. My question marks lay in if they can hit it consistently enough throughout a best-of-1 stage in the group stage or possibly a play-in. Let's talk about that in a second. I'm first going to give the key up player of the game, series rather, Shocks, that was 3 games. Kavi, 42% of the votes. What a poetic justice that it's Kavi again who gets it, and he gets back to Worlds. I saw you giving him a hug. Yamato, how happy are you for this guy?
I was super happy for him. You know, I met him in the hallway, and I was like, dude, just make it quick. And he was okay. I was like, yeah, sure, man. And then when I hugged him in the crowd, he was like, I made it quick.
Lovely stuff. If we look at the bracket, it means that Splyce are ready for Worlds 2019, while Schalke end their season here. So now, let's talk about Splyce at Worlds. And I don't want to condemn them to that 3rd seed in play-ins, but let's theoretically say that they arrive in play-ins. Frosk, what are your initial thoughts as how they could do there to start?
Well, I haven't gotten a chance to really deep dive into the play-ins teams. I will say that I personally think it would only make Splyce a stronger team. I do think that when teams get to go into play-ins, we saw this with G2 and Cloud9, who both went in through play-ins and then made massive runs to the semifinals. Last Worlds, it gives you time to figure out the meta, it gives you good scrim practice, and it gives you time to experiment and find your footing, find your momentum. And I think for a team like Splyce that has so many new members to the world stage, 4 out of their 5 players brand new to this level of competition, that only actually bodes well for them if they do take 3rd seed.
Exceptional point.
I think the big thing, the takeaway with Splyce that I felt throughout the day and yesterday and the general consensus about how they talk in interviews is confidence and comfort is a really big deal. I just have to add something in my throat, sorry.
Water.
So Humanoid, I'll grab some water later, it's too tricky. Humanoid on Kiana versus Fnatic, all of a sudden, he was a monster. Confidence and comfort. Akali today, confidence, comfort. GP, confidence, comfort. All of a sudden, we see the kind of night and day difference of these players when they're playing something they really want to play, like Noshkiran on Tam, Noshkiran Nautilus look rough in that game 3, but doesn't matter. If they find those key picks, which I think they can find the time to explore in the play-ins, all of a sudden we might see peak Splyce.
I also think in terms of their coaching staff, that's then a clear goal. If you're going into play-ins, maybe even groups where you're playing several best-of-1s in one day, then that mental stability has to be in there because you can go on that roller coaster and it can all go downhill or it can all go uphill for Splyce. So I think that's a clear task for them. But then, Gilius, you said about tomorrow, because we now theorize about play-ins, but they could still get 2nd seed. Why is it such a clear-cut 3-0 for you? For Fnatic.
It's just the first, Fnatic and G2 are on a different level, I think. It's just these teams have much more international experience than the other teams in the LEC. They have all the superstars. G2 literally has the 5 best players in Europe. And Fnatic is just, I think they losing to G2 twice is experience where you learn a lot. And
what's so good about Fnatic?
Fnatic, they have Reckless, Hylissang in a bot lane that's already pretty unbalanced. You have Broxa, who is like, the meta is really good for him right now. And you have, I don't know, the whole team is good. I don't know.
Do you remember who the rest of the team is next?
Yeah, Nemesis and Buipo, no?
I think like the sentiment is that you keep hearing words like, you know, the 5 best players, Reckless and Hilly, it's uneven. It's these names that grab out to you. And when you think about Splyce, I mean, you have Kabe, and his name will come to everyone. But Xerxes, it felt like, was having a great split, and a lot of people got behind him and were really singing his praises. But we constantly talk about that X factor, like who's it going to be for Splyce when you stand up to titans like G2 and Fnatic, and it's that legendary, iconic, superstar, whatever adjective you want to throw onto it. That's what Splyce are missing right now. And it doesn't mean that it's not capable, but it means that they now get an opportunity on an international stage where they could pull a Vitality. They could make themselves into superstars. If Xerxes comes into a worlds and then just like destroys kids, then he gets to become that Broxa, that Jankos. But they haven't done it yet.
How possible is it for Splyce to pull a Vitality? And are we also, I want to use this word very carefully, because by all means I think Vitality did exceptional at Worlds but fell short, but diminish them to being that wild card factor.
I think the nature of play style, for one.
Exactly.
I think I wanted to touch on the point about this particular matchup. I think today was a massive coaching staff victory, honestly. The preparation, 3 games, I think the draft was so successful for Splyce and what they wanted to accomplish in the game, specifically against Schalke. And that's amazing considering they're in a gauntlet format. They had to face another team yesterday and they have to continue preparation overnight. That's crazy. And with that being said, coming into a best of 5 now against a Fnatic, they get to see all of this. I think that coaching draft power is no longer there. And then you have to look at how strong these teams are pound for pound. Fnatic, I think they just play much faster. I think a lot of the champion pools, they kind of collide. People loves the Gangplank too. He loves to get left on an island. Going to have that pick getting contested a lot. The Kali as well with Humanoid. There's a lot of picks there that collide with each other. So I think we're going to have very interesting drafts where Fnatic will have an edge. And I think also player-wise, Reckless and Hylissang are just too lethal.
And I think when teams look at Splyce, they should like try to copy some things. Like I looked at the backstage camera. It looks like a restaurant out there.
Oh, the snacks look unreal.
Yeah, there's like there's a meal, you know, you can eat this, you can eat this. There's like, I don't know, man. They invited everyone. 20 people.
Someone's on like the massage, someone's got like the slippers.
That is not,
I mean, it's helping.
That is absolutely not balanced. If there's 20 brains there, then you will.
I mean, the person preparing the snacks probably isn't helping in the draft, though.
You don't know.
Maybe he is. Maybe he's
Duke
like
could have made those snacks.
Yeah. He's like,
That's the
I can make your hors d'oeuvres, and I can also predict the draft.
And
for
then you look at Schalke, and there's Dylan Falco. Why is he laughing?
Gilius.
It's just true.
Okay.
Like, no,
I'm
sorry.
Okay, so I don't want to like. I feel like it's like
he's saying it's a one-man army versus the machine that is Splyce.
I thought you were throwing shade at Dylan Falco, but you were saying it's one.
I'm not throwing shade at anyone.
Yeah, okay.
I'm saying they have like snacks everywhere. They're taking care of their players, and I'm not saying other teams are not.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I totally understand.
And I am also saying that a lot of people in the coaching staff is a good thing.
But too many cooks in the kitchen is sometimes also not.
No, but you can actually see the fingerprints of what he's talking about, which is...
You can disagree with everything I say.
No,
I'm with you 100%. I'm sorry, it's my bad. I'm laughing, it's my bad.
I don't disagree at all, Gilius. I just wanted to make sure that we also gave... I mean, Schalke lost, but we've seen throughout the year that they have put a lot into their coaching staff, a lot into everything surrounding the team. So it's... I just wanted to be careful that we weren't completely...
I worked with Schalke
disregarding them.
in Athens at the booth. I respect everyone in Schalke, and I'm really good friends with everyone.
Yeah, just, you know, just make sure we're all clear.
No, I was just... I was going to say, I think he brings up a great point in that you can see the fingerprint of Splyce's support structure that they've built behind them. The fact that you can plug in completely different players virtually every single year, and you pop out and it's a 37-minute game every single time, which thankfully not for this series. This is like probably the fastest games from Splyce I've ever seen. So I just want to echo the compliments to Splyce's staff, because I do agree with both their points. This was, I think, a huge staff victory today. I think the draft was amazing. I think the plan was executed brilliantly.
I put that in place. No, I'm kidding.
Amazing snacks.
The snacks. And also, what we saw, I saw bananas, I saw cheese.
There was some carrot sticks, some hummus.
I saw like fresh baked muffin. Like, wow.
Yeah, I saw fruits I've never seen before.
Fruits I've never seen before. How did they get this produce in Berlin? We were talking about it earlier.
I got pretty hungry.
This is okay. This happens often. You talk about something behind the scenes, and it finds itself, you know, in the live, which you should not be talking about at all. So no more produce talk and no more snack talk.
All right, I'm sorry.
Splyce the Worlds?
Splyce are at Worlds. So I'm very happy though. I'm very happy though that we that we meandered about also the support staff, because more often than not, one coach gets mentioned or one person who's very vocal in front of the scenes get mentioned, but not all the people who work on it. I think for Splyce in general, also content-wise, they've stepped it up this year, and this can be a victory for the whole organization to be proud of in that regard.
I think when I think about Splyce and how well they might do internationally, I know Peter Dunn, he likes to tweet about players in very strange leagues, and he's watching all of these leagues, and I think coming into play-ins, he's going to face all these teams that I've never heard of, and he's going to know about them. He's going to know all the insides and all the players.
Peter walks up, he's like, his blood type is B.
Yeah, pretty much. I think we were talking about the wild card factor, and I think, you know, what we brought to the Worlds were that we were really, really wild. And I think Splyce is not as wild. And I think, you know, with that being said, if you want to beat the best, you have to be a bit wild.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how the play-ins work. Like, is Splyce gonna be? Do they need to beat like Korea third seed, China third seed?
I don't know exactly how the draw works, but you know that the third seed from Korea is in the play-ins, and then it's also, you know, teams from Brazil as well as OCE. Team
That's no problem.
In the past, it's been the two groups, and then winners of the groups face the third seeds of the power regions, I think, or major regions in a best of 5.
So it's just RNG.
Well, it depends, right? If for some reason the power region
are decided, like Group A will face X team, Group B will face
let's
B
hope
team.
for a good group for Splyce.
I mean, it's only 2, but I mean.
Oh, there's 2 groups.
I believe so. I have to brush up on my structure of the play-ins before
I believe
we
it's
get
4.
Is it? Yeah.
You sure?
Oh no, there's 4 total.
Yeah, there's 4. I was going to say.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry for the misinformation. Of course, we're still in the whole regional qualifier vibe, and our Worlds prep starts. Well, it's already started, but for the play-ins on Monday, I know Frosk has got her studying hat on, and the group draw show is on September 23rd
Nice plug.
at 4 CEST. So that's when you'll find out with all of us how the groups will play out.
Let me give you some real talk. I'm going straight after this regional qualifier. I've got a week, and I am smashing VODs. I am looking at everyone, Japan, Latin America, Brazil. I'm going to cover all of it.
Okay, well, you haven't watched yet.
No,
Who's your secret?
but I've already got my playlist set up. There's like 107 VODs on my
I love how you're like,
playlist.
oh no, I didn't remember the group system, like the structure for a second, and now I have to tell everyone that I will be prepared, which we will.
No, I'm just trying to hype up because I know it's
the same
Shucks, like slick.
She's analyzing better than us.
What I was going to say is that I was putting a huge priority on play-ins and group draw show, because I know previously there was some criticism about not telling the players' stories correctly, and I'm just letting everyone know that I'm putting my name and reputation on the line. I'm going to really drill these players and hopefully give a very good draw show.
So what you're saying is LPL's third seed is not getting to the group stage.
Check out Froskeren's Twitter for some good insight.
About everything. Hey, check out everyone's Twitter for good insight. And if you want another look at tonight's series, be sure to stay tuned for our rebroadcast. It is starting in just a few minutes. That was a fun PGL. You know, we went off topic a little bit, but why the hell not? That was all from us.
It was like a straight road, and we're just
meandering. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Gilius, Yamato, and Frost, for a very entertaining day. We'll be back tomorrow for that decision of who will get second and third seed, Fnatic or Splyce. See you then.
This is a bit loose.
Damn.
No.
Oh my God. Schalke and Splyce have spent the entire year fighting for a spot at Worlds, and tonight one of them will earn the honor of representing Europe on home soil.
Abadage has nothing. He does not have an ult to re-engage. Now pulling back. They can try to do what he can, but Humanoid is on the hunt for blood. Flash is out of safety. Pulls it back. That's not what he wanted. Oh no!
Go. This. Nice. Help me. Yeah, we are here. Can we end top? Or what do you think? This is nice.
Lots of stuff happening here. Cleanse now coming out. Splyce now going to leap in. Main screen. Have to keep your eyes on that fight because in goes Kave. That's going to be all too easy. Kave now needs to back up. Doesn't even need to. Front line is there to protect him. They're trying to get something back. Abadage simply cannot do it. Double kill comes in for Kave.
I think Karma might have TP.
Not me. They got me.
Oh. I can look to ult. Look Tandem. Can we kill Tandem?
Yeah, I got.
Look to hit me.
Did I hit someone? Nice, Mark.
Woo! Let's go, boys! It's just going to be the game. Absolute dominance from Splyce here. They're hunting for more. The TP coming in. Not sure why this is the moment. The Camille throws the TP in. Vizichowski now caught up. Azurze goes in. Up6 going to be in trouble. The ultimate comes out. Tries to flash backwards. The Kave has taken him out. The Baron may have gone down in the favor of Schalke, but Splyce are cleaning up the fight. Your upset will not be enough. Splyce should just end it. They still have the creeps. Upset. A hero play. It would take literally everything he has left. The Nexus falling lower and lower. And with an instant, Splyce do it. Splyce qualify for Worlds.